Chapter 401. You are already weak. Chen Chong breathed a sigh of relief. He suddenly received so much information before that made Chen a little unacceptable for a while, but fortunately, Chen was no longer the one who only knew how to sit in his dark little room and watch the show. After all, having lived in the world of Hokage for so long, his mental endurance is no longer comparable to that of the decadent youth. There is such a thing. Why don't you take it out sooner? Ding. According to the program settings, this originally required the host to comprehend by himself, and the system's assistants only played a guiding role. If the host had not questioned the system before, I would not have enabled the auxiliary program so early. Oh, Chen's eyes lit up, and the eyes that looked dead at first also had a little more brilliance. This is just the reason why Chen has just experienced the baptism of the system and has not completely settled down. Waiting for Chen to completely give him the baptism of the system, it won't be like this after you've eaten it completely. I really underestimate you. Chen rubbed his chin and smacked his lips. Originally, he thought that the system was just a simple program, and he didn't pay too much attention to the system. He only thought that the system was a mechanical existence, but he didn't think that the original system actually had this aspect that he hadn't thought of. It seems that Chen still thinks about the origin of the system too simply, so Chen still needs to reconsider his attitude towards the system. After all, now that we know that the origin of the system is not simple, we need to put the system into the process in the future. After all, like the system, it only moves after a push. If Chen doesn't take the initiative to test it, maybe the system will never reveal this function. But he just knew this in his heart. There was no need to tell the system. In fact, Chen himself does not have much confidence in the system and can fully control it. It is one aspect, but who knows how much the system is hiding. System. Ding, please pay attention to the host's wording. This system will always only analyze things rationally, and the final decision still rests with the host. Well, okay. Chen collapsed on the bed again and waved his hand. I still know this, you can rest assured. Even so, but Chen's deep eyes revealed full of fullness. Full of deep meaning. In short, you have to understand that feelings are just an external thing. If you want to become a strong person, you must let go of feelings. The role of this system is to assist the host to become the strongest in the world step by step. It doesn't matter if you let go of those unnecessary feelings. After the host becomes the strongest, isn't this kind of emotion coming when you want to? Chen Lang didn't agree with the system's statement. He finally gained his feelings, and the system hit him like this. According to what you mean, is it that the strong can do it for the sake of it, and feelings are just playthings of power? Chen sneered. Are these feelings really feelings? Feelings based on power and strength are just a means by which the weak are forced to depend on the strong. Such feelings will not last long. Just like those superficial brothers in reality, they can only share blessings, not difficult to deal with. That's not the case. It is not responsible for the host's outlook on life and the worldview system. What kind of person the host will become is the host's business. This system is only responsible for leading the host's strength to the peak of the pyramid, and all the host's behavior at that time. They have nothing to do with the system. Quote. Also, what this system says is not to let the host do whatever he wants. The host has distorted the meaning of this system to a certain extent. The meaning of this system is that only after you have the strength, you cannot be hindered and restricted by the world, just like the host. With the host's women, if the host's strength has really reached the level where the world has to compromise, will they still be stubbornly resisting? Chen disapproved of this statement and sneered. Could it be that my current strength is not enough? Just because his Chen is now comparable to the strength of the six-path immortals, can't they yield? Did they become floating or Chen couldn't move the knife? Does the host think that your strength is very strong now? The system suddenly reminded. Don't forget, the host's current strength is only barely at the level of six paths. Please don't think that the host can be complacent with the current strength. It should be noted that the world of Hokage is only the lowest level of the world of Xiaochen. On top of this, there are the world of the middle world and the world of the big world. The strongest in 1,000 worlds, not a toad who sits and watches the sky. Dakion world. Chen immediately grasped the key words in the system's words, and hurriedly asked the system, "What's going on here, please clarify." Answer the host. The plane where the host is now is composed of 3,000 small worlds, 3,000 middle worlds, and 3,000 great worlds, and the world of Hokage is only one of the 3,000 small worlds. In a higher world civilization, the host needs to constantly cultivate and become stronger, and eventually become the strongest in the 3,000 worlds. This is the host's ultimate task. That is to say, the world of Hokage is just a beginning, and I will go to other worlds in the future. Chen Yuan thought that he had reached the top of the world of Hokage, so after he became Jutsuren Zuli after all, according to the original book, the final big boss is only at this level, and it is difficult to break through, but now I hear the system say that there are other worlds above Hokage. Don't let Chen Xinsheng be vigilant. Yes, if it is just a pure Naruto world, the strength of the host has barely reached the limit of the Naruto world, and it is not absolute. There are already things in this world that can threaten the host, and in the entire 3,000 in the world, the strength of the host is still only a weak ant. The host has a long way to go, and should not be bound by these emotional matters. Quote. Got it. Chen waved his hand impatiently to interrupt the system. Although he was very disgusted by the system's disregard for his feelings, he had already acquiesced to what it said in his heart. Chapter 402. Unexpected Encounter. Ding. Please take the host seriously, this will involve the way the host should go after that. Chen nodded, indicating that he understood. This is indeed the case. If it is only in the world of Hokage, then Yichen's current strength is basically at the top, and the existence of the system will become a little embarrassing and a little redundant. Even Chen once was worried about whether the system would leave Chen. You must know that even if not all of Chen's strength is given by the system, most of the credit is due to the system. Once the system leaves, it will bring Chen. The blow is definitely not a little bit. The most important thing is that Chen still has so many points in the system that he has not used. If the system runs away, wouldn't he lose a lot? I can still clearly remember the days when I was exhausted every day, but still could only eat the subsistence allowances. During that time, if Chen's strength was not too low, he would not have been helpless in the subsequent Uchiha family tragedy. And now that Chen has become richer, and the source of points is also vast, but he doesn't want to try again on the day when he is crying for a point. Moreover, Chen's purpose this time was originally to explore the system here, but he didn't expect that he would actually hear something incredible. Chen, who had no motivation to cultivate, was now aroused by the worlds mentioned by the system. Dakion world, Chen murmured to himself, HMPH. A bit interesting. The system, can I go to other worlds now? Chen couldn't help asking, since there is no challenge in the world of Hokage, and there is still a long time before Uchiha Madara Kagaya and the others are born. Chen, I want to take advantage of this time to go to other worlds first. Answer to the host, now the conditions are not met, the teleportation cannot be started, and the next world cannot be entered. Conditions. What are the conditions? How can I enter the next world? And what will happen to this world after I enter the next world? Chen asked. Ding. Become the strongest in this world. Complete all the main quests in this world. The world is destroyed, and the completion of any one will allow the host to enter the next world. After the host enters the next world, the flow rate of that world's time will flow. Change correspondingly changes the flow rate of this world. It is possible that you only have 1 day after 10 years in the new world, and vice versa. Quote. Is that so? Chen rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Help me see what my main quest is now. After thinking about it, Chen realized that he hadn't received a quest from the system for a long time, and he had no points before. The source can only get points by doing system quests, and now a casual war can make Chen full of pots, so he also gave up the idea of doing quests, but he didn't expect that this would actually limit him to teleport to the imprisonment of the next world. Ding! The current host main quest. 1. Acquire 10-tailed chakra. Quest status. Completed. 2. Defeat and seal Ludao Obito, Ludaoban, the unsealed Kagaya. Quest status. Unfinished. 3. Wipe in addition to the ninja profession. Erase the ninja profession from the Naruto world. Task status, unfinished. 4. Become the king of the world and rule the entire Naruto world. Status, unfinished. Looking at the task table given by the system, cold sweat broke out on Chen's forehead. The previous one was easy to understand, but what the hell is that erasing ninja profession? Is it to kill all the ninjas? Wouldn't that even kill him? This quest is interpreted as making no one in the Naruto world survive as a ninja, whether it is to wipe out everyone by force or solve it by other means. Speaking of which, Chen thought of Madara's infinite monthly reading plan, and hurriedly asked the system. After he got a positive answer, the corner of his mouth smiled lightly, and he almost understood the meaning of the system. But at this moment, Chen suddenly felt an extremely weak and very unstable chakra outside the wooden house, and he couldn't help frowning. You must know that Chen chose a random place to start the wood escape technique. Although it is not rare, it is not a place that everyone can find, and Chen feels that this chakra atmosphere is somewhat familiar. Now that someone came, Na Chen stopped the conversation with the system, put on his clothes and strode towards the door. Yuan Chen thought that it would be the ninja coalition who accidentally wandered here, but when he opened the door and saw the person, he couldn't help but be a little surprised. Xiao Nan. Chen unexpectedly looked at Xiao Nan, whose clothes were tattered in front of his door, and chakra was extremely unstable. In Chen's impression, it seems that no one can push Ji Dun's Xiao Nan to this level. Regardless of Xiao Nan's strength, pain by her side is an existence beyond the reach of ordinary people. Although pain is really nothing to the current Chen, but for those ninja coalition forces whose top combat power is scarce, then it seems to be an insurmountable moat. But apart from the ninja coalition, Chen couldn't think of any other existence that could hurt Xiao Nan to such a degree. At this time, Xiao Nan, who was about to run out of chakra, reluctantly raised her head after hearing Chen's voice. When she saw Shi Chen, her expression was slightly stunned. Not because of this guy in front of him, Nagato would not risk going to the land of thunder. It can be said that everything has an inescapable connection with the Uchiha Chen in front of him. However, after seeing Chen, Xiao Nan did raise her heart for a while and then put it down. After all, it was useless to raise her guard in front of Chen with her current state. Xiao Nan reluctantly took a breath and stood up. Yes. It's you. Before she could finish her sentence, her feet were soft and she fainted in front of Chen. Hey, looking at Xiao Nan who had passed out in his arms, Chen couldn't help laughing. Unexpectedly, this guy passed out before he finished speaking, but he was a little scared in his heart. Before, it was only a long-distance sensing, but now I can sense the dried-up meridians in Xiaonan's body at close range, and I can't help but take a deep breath. This guy, how on earth can the chakra in the body be dying, and even the reconstruction function of the body itself is lost? As we all know, the most important thing in a ninja's body is chakra. If there is no chakra, it means the person's death. After the average person runs out of chakra, the body will automatically extract chakra from the body cells and spirit. Replenish. But Xiao Nan's current situation is indeed that he has lost even the autonomous function of his body, and the only remaining chakra is going to be exhausted. I really don't know how you got here. Chen shook his head helplessly. Chapter 403, Xiao Nan's Experience. To be honest, if possible, Chen didn't want to have anything to do with Xiao Nan at all. Anyone who has seen Hokage knows that Xiao Nan is Nagato's ban. It's not that Chen is afraid of Nagato, but that he doesn't. He didn't want to have extra troubles, and Ino had just left. He was a little unhappy now. Although he had seen a lot with the help of the system, he was still a little irritable after all. Looking down at Xiao Nan who was unconscious in his arms, Chen thought about it and carried her back to the cabin. He still cares a lot about who made Xiao Nan like this. Everyone knows that if he wants to hurt Xiao Nan, Nagato will definitely not sit idly by. Since Xiao Nan is already like this, Nagato doesn't need to. Said he must have lost. Chen couldn't imagine who would be Nagato's opponent on the bright side of Hokage now, but after getting in touch with the things that the system told him before, Chen had to care. Could it be some hidden master who defeated Nagato and injured Conan? This is a major event related to his crossing to the next world, and there is no room for sloppy. Now Chen thinks that these are all fruitless, and everything has to wait until Xiaonan wakes up to know what the results are. Chen put Xiaonan back on the bed, simply treated her with chakra, and then let her own body mechanism to recover from the injury. Chen is not a virgin. Since he can recover by himself, Chen doesn't need to do this. He now has time to wait for Xiaonan to wake up by himself. After an unknown amount of time, Xiaonan, who was lying on the bed, unconsciously let out a groan, and the originally motionless body began to tremble involuntarily. Suddenly, she suddenly opened her eyes. Where is this place? She propped herself up from the bed with difficulty, and when she looked up, she found Chen sitting on the chair. Xiaonan's pupils shrank, and his body tightened instantly. Whether it was what he heard from Nagato's conversation with Madara, or what he felt personally, he gave Xiaonan the feeling that this man is dangerous. Chen raised his head, stared at Xiaonan's face with deep eyes and said, "You are awake." "Uchiha Chen." Xiaonan said Chen's name word by word. In front of this man who even Nagato was ashamed of, Xiaonan did not dare to make any rash moves. With her current state, even if she wanted to escape can't do it either. "Why are you here?" Uchiha Chen grinned. Did this guy forget what happened before? But Chen didn't bother to explain these things. He has always been the only one who questioned others. No one dared to question him, so he asked, "Where is Nagato? Shouldn't I be with you? Why is it only you now?" I don't know if it was Chen's illusion, but when he uttered the word Nagato, Xiaonan's expression became obviously gloomy and flashed away. If it wasn't for the fact that Chen had become more familiar with people's hearts after receiving the emotional gift package made by the surprise of the system, he would not have noticed the fleeting bleakness in Xiaonan's eyes. "Why should I tell you?" Xiaonan said stubbornly. Chen snorted coldly. His whole body was full of momentum, and his icy murderous intent turned into sharp swords and stabbed towards Xiaonan. "Woman, you better understand the situation now. You must know that you are talking to Xiaonan now." "Who speaks?" Under Chen's substantive murderous aura, Xiaonan is like a sailboat sailing forward in a storm, which may collapse and perish at any time. Suddenly, Xiaonan's expression changed. Her body was shaky, her pale face flushed abnormally, and she spat out a mouthful of blood with a "wow." Originally, Xiaonan's body was not in good shape, but he just regained consciousness. He almost didn't faint again after being so suddenly endured by Chen's murderous aura. Fortunately, Chen had withdrawn his murderous aura when he saw that something was wrong with Xiaonan's body, and did not let Xiaonan faint again, but now Xiaonan's injury is more serious. It wasn't until this time that Xiaonan realized that she was no longer the angel of the Akatsuki organization, and she no longer had the care of Nagato, Yahiko, and teacher Jiraiya. Xiaonan let out a miserable laugh. Her pale face was covered with helpless tears. She looked at Chen and closed her eyes resignedly. "You kill me." Chen looked stunned for a moment, and almost didn't react. When did he say he was going to kill? Is it popular now to kill people after asking them? Is this the most popular superficial question right now? For a long time, Xiaonan, who didn't feel the coming of death, slowly opened his eyes and looked at Chen puzzled. "Aren't you? Are you going to kill me?" Chen's mouth twitched. "When did I say I was going to kill you? If I wanted to kill you, I wouldn't save you." Xiaonan looked at Uchiha Chen indifferently, and said suspiciously, "You saved me. Aren't you a group with those guys?" "A group of people." Chen frowned. "Speaking of which, who is chasing you? Pain, isn't he with you?" Hearing Pain, Xiaonan lowered his head, apparently remembering something unfortunate, before whispering after a long time, "Yahiko is dead. Nagato is dead." Chen felt that the amount of information in Xiaonan's words was too great. Although Nagato's strength was not considered in the eyes of Chen now, at least those eyes were possessed by the Six Paths Immortals back then. If Nagato didn't want to, no one would be able to kill him easily. In the original book, Naruto reluctantly relied on his mouth to make Nagato change his mind. "Dead? How?" "Toying. It seems that the name of the enemy was mentioned, and Xiaonan's eyes gradually revealed the fierce meaning. Not long ago, Nagato went to the Land of Thunder to recover the 8 tails and 9 tails, but I didn't expect to be attacked by a united team. Nagato was in the battle. Unfortunately, the ninjutsu of Tsukage died. Toying. Chen touched his chin. It seemed that the guy didn't have the power to kill Nagato. Chen probably guessed that this was just Nagato wanting to die. What about you? After Nagato's death, you or they chased and killed here. Xiaonan was silent for a long time, still immersed in grief, and it took a long time before he opened his mouth to tell what happened. It turned out that after the battle in Union Village, Xiaonan left with Nagato, but Nagato was already running out of oil at that time. At the point of dryness, it didn't take long for him to swallow his breath. The distraught Konan could only plan to bury Nagato and Yahiko's bodies before deciding to take revenge. Although Nagato had always clearly stated that she should escape and not take revenge for him, Xiaonan did not intend to follow Nagato's instructions. With Nagato's death, her only bond in this world was gone, and she was already dying. Ji's plan is to take revenge on everyone. The first object she wants to take revenge on is Obito, but what she didn't expect is that Obito will automatically find her and take Nagato's body. She was also seriously injured by Uchiha Obito, but fortunately, her ability was rather special, and Obito's target was only Nagato's corpse, and he didn't take her too seriously, so she had a chance to escape. Chen's expression was startled. He didn't expect this result. No wonder Obito wanted to recover Yinzhao's body. It turned out that the Eye of Reincarnation had already been obtained, and the 9-tailed chakra was missing. It seemed that things had begun to develop properly. C nodded and said, "That's it. That's it." 404. The Price of Revenge. Suddenly, Chen seemed to think of something, looked at Xiaonan with a half-smile but not a smile and said, "Speaking of which, you probably don't know, that guy who claims to be Madara is not the real Madara Uchiha. The real Madara Uchiha died more than 10 years ago." Quote. Anyway, his face has already been torn apart, and Chen has no intention of continuing to conceal his true identity for Obito. Xiaonan was stunned when he heard the words, and said in surprise, "Are you telling the truth? But isn't that kaleidoscope writing wheel ice something that only your Uchiha family can have?" "What did I lie to you for?" Chen said disdainfully. "That guy is indeed a member of our Uchiha clan, but he is not Madara, but Madara has already found a good successor more than 10 years ago, and his name is Uchiha Obi Soil, in order to be able to resurrect Madara Uchiha in the future." Quote. Chen spoke to Xiaonan and explained the unknown things about Obito and Uchiha Madara. "That is to say, at the beginning we were really in contact with Madara, and then it was replaced by another person. No wonder there is such a big gap between their personalities, but this is all your speculation, right? What evidence proves all this?" "I just said what I know, believe it or not." Chen spread his hands and made a happy expression to Xiaonan. Yuanchen said these words to Xiaonan on a whim. He couldn't say that this was the news he knew when he watched Naruto in his previous life, right? "Cut. You bastard." Xiaonan spat softly, knowing that he had nothing to do with Chen, and what Chen said was probably right. After all, the two people's personalities are so different before and after, and there are also differences in some small habits. Yes, these Nagato didn't pay much attention, but as a girl, Xiaonan could clearly sense it. From this point of view, Xiaonan knew that what Chen said was probably true. Uchiha Obito. Xiaonan's eyes gradually became cold, as if thinking of something. However, how could Chen not know what this woman was thinking? He coughed lightly and said, "Don't think about it, you can't win against him with your current strength. Not to mention that he has almost gathered all the 9-tailed beasts now, even if the kaleidoscope is not something you can deal with." Quote. Isn't it still worse than the 8 tails and the 9 tails? Actually, the outsider golem does not necessarily need to collect all the tailed beasts to activate, and other methods can also be used instead. For example, the ancient people Zuli reincarnated from the dirt, they still retain the tailed beast chakra that they held during their lifetime. Unfortunately, just not long ago, that guy just took a man with 9-tailed chakra away from me, and I can't think of any accident. Those chakras are enough for him to drive an outsider golem. Chen stretched his waist as if he was talking about something that had nothing to do with him, but he didn't know that his words caused a storm in Xiaonan's ears. Isn't it pointless? That Uchiha Obito Mingming already had a way to mobilize the outsider golem, but still let Nagato attack the headquarters of the Ninja Federation, which is simply to let Nagato go to death on purpose. Xiao Nanqiang endured the grief and anger, his eyes flickered, and he didn't know what he was thinking. Seeing Xiao Nan's appearance, Chen ignored it, stood up on his own, and said casually, "Okay, after all that has been said, it's time for me to leave. As for you, it's good luck that you don't die this time. Whether you continue to seek revenge for Uchiha Obito or find a place to hide is up to you." Saying that, Chen is about to go outside. Xiao Nan, who was thinking about it secretly, didn't know what to think after finding out that Chen was leaving, and hurriedly said, "Wait." Chen Wenyan stopped, frowned slightly, turned around to look at Xiao Nan, and seemed a little impatient. He and Xiao Nan were not familiar with each other at all, except that they had met twice during the cooperation with Xiao organization. Any intersection, the reason why she would save her was just casual. I felt that this woman was actually quite pitiful, and there was no threat to him at all, so I saved her casually, and never thought about it. Although he said that he is not a murderer, he has never been a soft-hearted person. To put it bluntly, he has a degree, a perfect balance between sensibility and rationality. You must know that degree has always been a philosophy of life. How many people have failed miserably and lost their lives just because they have no points in their hearts? For Chen, doing this is considered to be the utmost benevolence and righteousness. He doesn't seem to waste too much time on a person who has no intersection. Looking at Xiao Nan indifferently, he said solemnly, "Is there anything else? Since you know so much about Uchiha Obito, and from your attitude, you seem to be very dismissive of foreign golems, it seems that you don't care about Uchiha Obito or foreign golems." Huh? Chen sneered, looked at Xiao Nan's glamorous face, and said casually, "Oh. So what?" Xiao Nan gritted his teeth and was silent for a while, then seemed determined to say, "I think. No, I need your strength to avenge me." Chen seemed to have heard a very similar joke and couldn't help laughing out loud. "Haha, I don't have that obligation, or in other words, why do you want me to avenge you?" "Why?" Xiao Nan was stunned. "Yes, why?" Damn. Seeing Chen's mocking expression, Xiao Nan couldn't help but feel angry at her own insignificance. This was the first time, she had never thought about her desire for power now. Before, Nagato and Yahiko were by her side to protect her. And now she's alone, she didn't expect to be disliked like this. Xiao Nan clenched his fist tightly and was even more determined in his heart. No matter what, I will take revenge, no matter what the cost. I can pay any price. Chen Wenyan was stunned for a moment, and looked at Xiao Nan with a strange look, but soon returned to his playful expression. Looking at Xiao Nan's incomparably glamorous face, he suddenly had the idea of playing tricks, and walked in front of Xiao Nan. Stretched out his finger, lifted Xiao Nan's chin frivolously, and said jokingly, "Any price." Facing Chen's frivolous behavior, Xiao Nan frowned slightly, and seemed to feel extremely disgusted, but he resisted and did not dodge. What if the price is you? Chapter 405, Chasing Troops. Chen looked at Xiao Nan with interest, and felt her slender figure under the red cloud and black background, as if thinking of something, smiled at Xiao Nan with a weird smile and said, "If I want you, what to do?" In fact, Chen was just trying to make fun of him temporarily. Although with the help of the system, he forcibly integrated his emotions, so that he no longer ignores his emotions as he used to avoid them, but it does not mean that he turned into a guy with a brain on sperm. I have to say that Xiao Nan is indeed a rare beauty, especially her icy temperament, which makes people fascinated. However, for Chen, he has no feeling for Xiao Nan at all, even if Xiao Nan is really beautiful, but it wasn't Chen's dish. The only thing Chen cared about was Ino alone, but being able to see a charming woman showing shame and anger in her eyes could greatly satisfy Chen's bad taste. After hearing Chen's request, Xiaonan's eyes narrowed slightly, obviously not expecting Uchiha Chen to propose such absurd conditions, and then frowned, clenching his teeth and looking at Chen expressionlessly, without any expression. However, there was an unconcealed humiliation and anger in his eyes. Looking at Xiaonan's expression, Chen smiled indifferently, shook his head and said jokingly, "It seems that you don't want to, and you said that you can pay any price. It turns out to be a lie. I thought you. Do you really have the consciousness of revenge? Do you think I will lack your intelligence?" Xiaonan's face was startled. It was true, she has nothing now. What qualifications does she have to ask Uchiha Chen to avenge her? Besides this body, you can make a deal with me. What else do I need? If there is nothing else, then I will leave. Chen knew that Xiaonan was still hesitating, so he wanted to wait until Xiaonan hesitated. Adding a fire, he wanted to see how much Xiaonan could pay for revenge. Xiaonan's face was complicated, thinking that she really had nothing other than this skin bag that could be exchanged for equivalent, but she was reluctant to give herself to others for nothing. After all, she is also someone who has never experienced anything, so she handed over herself for no reason, and she will feel unwilling in her heart more or less. Cut, it's boring. Chen saw that Xiaonan was silent, and lost interest in teasing him anymore. Impatiently, he didn't bother to wait for Xiaonan to make a decision. Anyway, he just wanted to tease Xiaonan on a whim. Chen raised his legs and left, not even bothering to look at Xiaonan again. Xiaonan's expression was complicated. Seeing Chen, who was already walking out of the house, felt uncomfortable. It seems that she thinks too much, or she puts herself too high. Xiaonan wants to call Zuchen, but she can't come up with a better bargaining chip, and she doesn't want to use her body as an exchange, can only watch Chen leave. Outside the house, two men wearing red clouds and black bottom robes stood in front of the door, staring at the wooden house built by Chen with wooden tunnels, and said indifferently, "Are you sure this is the place?" "Yes, it's inside. I can feel her faint breath, but there's another person inside. It's hard to judge the strength." One of them nodded and said to the other, "HMPH, now that we are all immortal, who else can be our opponent?" The other person snorted coldly, seemingly impatient with his companion's caution. "Are you itchy? Do you want me to make art?" The man who was stopped had a bad look and responded hoarsely. The man looked down and said, "On your level of art. I said earlier that the highest achievement of art is an instant explosion. Look at you, if you make yourself a puppet, isn't it dead? How can something be an eternal artwork?" Quote. That's right, standing at the door is Akatsuki's artistic duo, Deidara and Scorpion. During the fourth battle, they met the support troops led by Konkuro and Sakai. After the two battles, Deidara and Scorpion did not gain the upper hand and were recalled, so they were on standby at the Akatsuki headquarters. As a result, this time Conan and Obito fell out. In the future, the two were sent out just to organize Xiaonan to Weishao. The two searched for Xiaonan's breath and came here, and happened to meet Chen, who was about to go out. Chen couldn't help raising his eyebrows after sensing the familiar chakra aura outside the house, turned to Xiaonan and said, "It seems that the person who caught you has arrived. How is it? Do you want to know who it is?" Xiaonan bit her lip lightly, and after hearing Chen's words, she understood that it was definitely someone she knew who came to arrest her this time, otherwise Chen wouldn't have come to tease her on purpose. Seeing that Xiaonan didn't reply, Chen pulled the door handle and pushed it open. "Since you want to know, let's confirm it." However, they said that the two people at the door originally planned to break in directly, but they did not expect that the person inside would actually open the door by themselves. Deidara, who was channeled, gritted his teeth after seeing Chen's first glance and said, "Sasuke Uchiha. I had a hard time finding you." At the beginning, he was cornered in the battle with Sasuke and chose to self-destruct. If it weren't for Sasuke and Kakashi, why did Deidara die in a row and be reincarnated and driven by people? Now that new hatred and old hatred are counted together, Deidara was already very face-saving if he didn't do it in the first place. Wait. Scorpion stretched out his hand to stop Deidara, who wanted to make a move. "Don't be in a hurry, didn't you realize that this guy is not Sasuke? Although he looks very similar, Sasuke is not as big as this guy. The amount of chakra in the chakra is not as powerful as this guy. If I am not wrong, this guy should be the rumored twin brother of Sasuke Uchiha Chen. Scorpion's last sentence was addressed to Chen. Chen did not expect that Scorpion would actually have such a calm side. It can be said that Scorpion is one of the few people in Xiao's organization that Chen admires. The age of the weak crown can defeat the 3 generations of Fengying. Being made into a human-shaped puppet, even Chen can't help but be amazed, but Chen didn't have time to discuss with the Scorpion 1 or 2, this guy has already fallen. It turned out that the first meeting of the two was under such circumstances. Chapter 406, Helpless Xiaonan. Chen glanced at the Scorpion, he smiled. I didn't expect that the famous Red Sand Scorpion would actually know him. But I remember that we haven't met. Scorpion nodded. As expected, although we have never met, I have been in love with your excellency for a long time. Presumably, if your body is made into a puppet, it will definitely be able to show my most perfect artwork. It will be even more perfect than the most perfect artwork of my life. Quote. When it comes to the Scorpion of works of art, there is a strong ray of light, which is an indispensable temperament for a scientist and an artist. It is difficult to imagine that in the world of Naruto, the Scorpion, as a strong man with shadow-level strength, will have it. Such a strong artistic atmosphere, or maybe he is an artist who has been delayed by ninjutsu. If he puts it into real life, I believe that Scorpion will definitely become that kind of famous artist. However, this is just Scorpion's unilateral imagination. Chen chuckled softly. How could he take the words of a dead person to heart? Not to mention that Scorpion is just a puppet reincarnated from dirty soil, and even his own body is incapable of control. Even if he didn't die, in Chen's eyes, it was nothing to be feared at all. Although he didn't feel angry, it didn't mean that Chen was a broad-minded person. If someone really dared to take him as a target, they had to be prepared to pay the price. It's like the sage doesn't care about the death of the ants, but he doesn't deliberately target the ants. Thanks to the system, Chen's strength and realm have already created an insurmountable chasm with these so-called shadow-level powerhouses. Even if they no matter how hard you try, you can't catch up. After the mentality changes, Chen's thoughts about the abuse of vegetables will naturally fade. If you don't provoke Chen, then everything is easy to say, but if death touches Chen's nerves like a scorpion, then I'm sorry, it's better for you to die again. After all, saints may not care about ants, but they are absolutely not allowed to blaspheme their majesty. Deidara snorted softly, and was very unhappy with Chen's attitude. At first, he was cornered by Sasuke and Kakashi and could only blew himself up to show his explosive art. Thinking of being defeated by Kankuro and Saoi in the first battle, and now he finally came out again and met this Uchiha Chen who looks exactly like Sasuke. Deidara, who had resentment in his heart, had nowhere to vent his anger, and Chen got close to Deidara's anger. Scorpion, what do you do with him? Why don't you ask him to hand over Xiaonan? If he refuses, I will let him have a taste of the art explosion. It was obvious that Deidara was venting her resentment against Sasuke on Tatsuya. Although the two of them were reincarnated from the dirty soil, they didn't know much about Chen's strength, and thought that Chen was at most similar to Sasuke at the beginning, and they could definitely suppress Chen with their strength. Haha, Chen's eyebrows were raised, provoking again and again. Even if Chen has the mentality of a saint, he can't help it, not to mention that he is not a saint in the first place. Feeling the more and more suffocating anger on Uchiha Chen, Scorpio and Deidara understood that the guy in front of him was definitely not to be messed with, no matter how big they were. Fei Liuhu's tail blocked Deidara's steps, and Deidara looked at the scorpion in the puppet in surprise, not understanding the reason why he stopped him. Wait. Scorpion didn't explain to him after stopping Deidara, but said to Chen, who was getting more and more imposing, that guy is not our target. Xiaonan, who had been standing in the wooden house, was stunned when she heard this. Originally, Xiaonan still had a fluke in her heart. She didn't quite believe it when she heard Chen said they were here to arrest her, but now she can't help but believe it. At this time, Xiaonan can only pray that Chen can help her resist for a while. It would be better if they can all be killed, but will Chen be so kind? From her previous contacts, she probably knew a little about Uchiha Chen's character. It seems that he does whatever he wants and does whatever he wants. If he doesn't want to do it, he does it. Said that she and Uchiha had nothing to do with each other, so she shouldn't be so kind to save her, but she was really saved by Uchiha, and even she asked Uchiha to help her with revenge. He didn't expressly refuse, but put forward a condition that would humiliate her. Thinking of that condition, Xiaonan couldn't help clenching his fists again. His eyes were full of humiliation and anger, but more sadness and helplessness. Oh, you want to arrest Xiaonan? I have no problem with you arresting her. Chen shrugged and said indifferently. In the house, Xiaonan listened to Chen's words, and felt even more despair in her heart. In her current state, she couldn't form any fighting strength at all. Once caught, let alone revenge, even her own life is a question, although she has long been determined to die, but before she completes her revenge, she cannot die, especially at the hands of the enemy. Chen's wooden house has no other exit except the exit in front of the door, and Xiaonan can't break the wall of Mudun in this state. Seeing that the person who came to catch her is about to come in, Xiaonan has no choice, and a pair of beautiful eyes can't help it. Looking at Chen, Didera and Scorpion were overjoyed in their hearts. They didn't expect Chen to talk so easily, so they let them go easily. While they were happy that their task was about to be completed, they didn't notice Chen, whose face was getting darker and darker. But Chen's voice was like the cold wind in the cold winter, and it was painful to blow. Even if the two of them are now in a state of reincarnation without pain, they can still feel the biting words in Chen's words. Cold. I made this wooden house. This is my site. I didn't allow you to step into my site. Chen moved to Didera in an instant. So fast. Scorpion could only feel a burst of air in front of him, and Chen had disappeared where he was standing. However, it was not the Scorpion that was hit the hardest at this moment, but Didera. Before he could react, Chen had already come to him, and a hand stretched out and pierced directly through Didera's chest. Chapter 407, Kill 1. If that's the case, it's not a big deal. What shocked Didera was that he didn't feel the slightest sign of chakra flowing in Chen's body, which means that Chen's hands have not used any chakra so far. It is the power of Chen's body. You must know that although the body of the reincarnation of the dirty earth is often criticized for not being strong enough, it is only for the shadow-level powerhouse. Even the master of physical arts, Kai, needs to open up the power of 8 doors to be able to achieve such a level as Chen. As expected of a genius of the Uchiha clan, Didera looked at Chen expressionlessly, as if it wasn't him who was pierced through his chest. I admit that your strength is very strong, but an attack of this level is not good for you. I'm useless. The biggest advantage of being reincarnated from dirt is that you won't feel pain, and even if you are injured, you will gradually recover. Didera was not worried at all after being pierced by Chen Dong. She would recover anyway. No matter how Chen attacked, it would be ineffective. After piercing Didera's chest, Chen didn't stop his movements. After hearing Didera's words, Chen smiled coldly. Really? How do you know if you don't try it? The hand chakra still inserted in Didera's chest began to surge, and countless thunder attribute chakras gathered in Chen's hands. It's useless. You're like that. You bastard. You. What did you do? Didera felt that something was wrong with his body when he was halfway through his words. He had no pain at all. He actually felt a violent surge from his chest. The burning sensation and numbness he felt. It was too late when he realized that something was wrong. Stop it. Scorpion immediately took action after realizing that the situation was not good. Fei Liuhu's tail needle stabbed towards Chen, wanting to surround Wei and rescue Zhao first and rescue Didera. Go away. Chen turned his head. The eternal kaleidoscope in his deep eyes was spinning rapidly. Amaterasu. The burning ominous flame was projected on Fei Liuhu from Chen's eyes, and the endless flames scorched Fei Liuhu. Even the scorpion who was in Fei Liuhu after the reincarnation of the dirty earth could feel the air coming from Amaterasu. of burning sensations. In desperation, Scorpion had to give up Fei Liuhu. There are more and more thunder attribute chakras in Chen's hands, and the thunder attribute chakras scattered between heaven and earth are attracted by Chen and begin to gather. What the hell are you doing? Didera felt that the threat in Chen's hands was getting bigger and bigger, and couldn't help but panic, because he found that he had even blocked chakra's induction now. This also means that he can only watch helplessly as the chakra energy on his chest increases. Gradually, a trace of black chakra lightning appeared in the lightning that was originally glowing with blue light. This is a sign that the thunder attribute chakra begins to mutate after being compressed to the extreme, which is what people call black electricity. In the original work, only Erzu can release this black lightning with the will of destruction after absorbing the free natural chakra after entering the second stage of the spell. Even the third Reikage couldn't use this move, and even if he used the strongest one, it was only a sign of purification. But now Chen can gather black lightning so easily in his normal state. You must know that this is a sign of natural chakra. 1,000 kills in the immortal black prison. That trace of black lightning gradually replaced the color of other lightnings, dyeing the chakra gathered in Chen's hands into pitch black. Under the immortal ninjutsu with the will to destroy, even those who were reincarnated from the filth can only drink their hatred here. The powerful destruction force destroyed Didara's body into powder. Even if the reincarnation of the dirty earth is strong, there is no way to regenerate Didara again, because even Didara's soul has been destroyed by Chen's fairy ninjutsu. Destroyed. Chen, who slowly retracted his hand, let out a soft sigh of relief. This move would never have been used before he became the 10-tailed man Zuli. After all, it was necessary to absorb the natural attribute chakra. It can only be cast after entering the second stage of the spell state, and Chen has not learned the immortal mode, and has no way to control the natural attribute chakra freely. However, after Chen has become a 10-tailed man, he can use the 6 paths immortal technique, and it is of course easy to control the natural attribute chakra, which enables him to release the immortal technique level ninja technique when he does not enter the immortal mode. Not to mention Chen. At this time Scorpion and Xiaonan were already frightened by Chen. Scorpion was shocked that she and Didera had misestimated Chen's strength, but Xiaonan didn't expect Chen to grow up so quickly to a realm that she could only look up to. The last time we met, Chen was just a small character who was mixed with Orochimaru in Tianjiguo. Even if Nagato suffered a loss, she didn't believe that Chen was really stronger than Nagato. After all, Nagato only dispatched one heavenly Dao. If Lu Daochuan is present, it is not certain who will kill the deer. And how long has it been now? Even Pain couldn't have killed Didera so easily. Thinking about it this way, maybe, he can really avenge me. Xiaonan stared at Chen's back with a gloomy expression on his face. In the end, Xiaonan felt ruthless in his heart. I must take revenge, no matter what the cost. Perhaps now the only motivation for Xiaonan to survive is revenge. After solving Didera, Chen returned to calm, and the boundless aura on his body gradually dissipated. If it weren't for the pile of powder in front of him reminding Scorpion that it was Chen's masterpiece, maybe Scorpion would have thought that everything before was related to Chen. It doesn't matter at all. After doing all this, Chen just gave Scorpion a light glance, but it was this glance that made Scorpion make a loud alarm. That's how Chen killed Didera just now. He didn't want to be the second Didera. Speaking of which, Didera is also pitiful. He blew himself up and died in Sasuke's assistant for the first time. As a result, after the reincarnation of the earth, he died again in the hands of Sasuke's other brother, Uchiha Chen, before he had time for revenge. This time even his soul was captured. Annihilated. Scorpion is naturally not as stupid as Didera, although he is also a genius, with the arrogance of genius. But he doesn't have the common problem that so-called geniuses have, arrogance. After seeing Chen's strength and comparing himself, Scorpion, who found that he was not an opponent at all, felt troublesome. If possible, he would not want to face such a monster. Out of his own control. Chapter 408, Puppet Artist. Seeing that Didera was killed, Scorpion, who was Didara's companion, didn't show the slightest, but said to Chen in a tone of admiration, "It's really amazing, although I'm very unhappy with this guy Didera. But I have to say that his ability is really strong. I didn't expect you to kill him so easily, and it's not unreasonable to make Ah Fei and the others so jealous." In fact, the Scorpion and Didera are different, although they were both reincarnated by the dirt, but unlike Didera does not seem to resist being resurrected in this way, but enjoys it and doesn't care about him at all. The fact of being enslaved is different. Scorpion is different. He is very disgusted with being enslaved. He is a puppet master himself, a profession that plays with puppet corpses, but now he is summoned to forcibly play. I have to say this is a very funny thing. I don't know if the Scorpion also thought that when he was playing with the corpses of those innocent people, he would be played with by others one day. No matter what, I used to be a member of Xiao's organization, and Xiao Nan was also my companion. I really don't want to do it, but it's a pity that I'm being manipulated now, and there's no room for rejection. It's ridiculous, right? Being manipulated as a puppet. Scorpion smiled, and it was obvious from his words that he could hear the unwillingness and resentment in his heart. But it's enough to have access to such a perfect piece of art. After Fei Liu, who was forcibly broken by Chen, Scorpion appeared as his true face, and his young face was very deceptive. No one dared to imagine that such a handsome child would actually kill the 3 generations of Fengying and indirectly lead to the 3rd forbearance. The culprit of the outbreak of the World War. Scorpion jumped and took out a scroll from his cuff, which was the sealed space where he stored the puppet. I saw that he spread out the scroll, used chakra to induce it, and released all the 296 human puppets inside. In an instant, hundreds of ninja puppets wearing red robes appeared behind the Scorpion. Each puppet had a different weapon, and its actions were controlled by the chakra lines issued by the regeneration core. Even if the hundreds of puppets connected to it are not controlled by fingers, the will of the puppet master can be reflected on the actions of the puppets, so hundreds of puppets can be manipulated as freely as their own hands and feet. This is also the key to the Scorpion's ability to destroy a country. Red Secret Skills 100 Machines Exercise. Scorpion's hands are constantly waving, 10 fingers are dazzling as if they are dancing, 10 long chakra lines stretch out from the fingertips to connect all the puppets together. I want to see what you do with this trick. Deal with it. The Scorpion looked at Chen with a cold face, and all the puppets swarmed towards Chen as if they had been ordered. Chen could have stepped forward to interrupt when Scorpion was preparing, but Chen didn't do it because he also wanted to see what kind of accomplishments Scorpion was proud of in puppet art, not to mention that Chen still needed to show himself. The power of the Scorpion is shown to the pocket behind the Scorpion, so that he understands that he is not easy to mess with, and don't put his mind on Chen's head. To say that Didera and Scorpion dared to act after seeing him, it would be impossible without Dou's instructions. At this moment, Dou must be hiding in his old lair and observing the movement here, because he also wants to know Chen's what kind of strength has it reached now. Is this the puppet technique you're proud of? It's really spectacular, but... The writing wheel in Chen's eyes slowly turned. It's useless to be spectacular. Immortal Hell. A strong black lightning suddenly appeared on Chen's body, and it was the immortal lightning that had wiped out Didera before. Not good. Scorpion was startled, saying that he wanted to take back the puppet, but it was still a step too late, and the lightning on Chen's body rushed towards the group of people swarming towards him. The people who come are puppets. As soon as the black prison lightning touches the human puppet of the Scorpion, it destroys the human puppet with the potential of destroying the tree and pulling the rot. No matter how sensitive the Scorpion is, it can't match the formidable power of the Chenxian method. In the end, the human puppet that can avoid the misfortune is barely less than 10. However, the land between the two had already turned black, and black lightning flashed from time to time on the wreckage of human puppets scattered everywhere. If you just look at the effect, it was indeed a match for the hell on earth. Scorpion looked at Chen with an embarrassed expression, knowing that these were all human puppets he carefully collected and made. Not all corpses can be made into human puppets. Otherwise, why would there be only 296 human puppets when the Scorpion killed thousands of people? The most important thing to make a human puppet is to have a strong body, at least an elite chunin level, to be able to withstand the human body transformation of a scorpion. Ordinary people's corpses can't withstand this level of transformation at all. If it wasn't for the scorpion that killed it, there are too many people who can't get this set of puppets together. Now they use it to face Uchiha, but Uchiha didn't even move. As expected of the genius of the Uchiha clan, the strength is so strong that it makes people tremble. It seems that these trash fish can't do anything to you. Scorpion put away the remaining human puppets and opened another scroll. I wonder if you can beat my strongest masterpiece. With the sound of bang, after a puff of smoke dissipated, what appeared behind the scorpion was his most proud masterpiece, 3 generations of Cage. It really is this guy. Chen sneered. In his opinion, Scorpion was like a child who got a toy and wanted to show it off to others. After finding one toy people didn't like, he took out another toy. Where is this fight? Just kidding. If it was Chen, it wouldn't be so troublesome. Whether it was a 100-person puppet or a human puppet like Sanji Fengiying, Chen would take it out immediately. What do you want to do when you take it out one by one? Do you give people experience to send courier? The villain must have a villain's consciousness. If you can't kill it with one hit, then hide away and don't appear. Looking at Chen's contemptuous eyes, Scorpion yelled at Chen as if feeling that his most admired art had been tarnished. What kind of eyes do you have? Look down on me. Damn, sand and iron Shiu. Countless fine needles of sand and iron are rushing towards Chen, like a torrent and rolling rain. If you are not careful, you will be stabbed by the fine needles of sand and iron. You must know that iron sand is not only magnetic, but also contains with the poison carefully crafted by the scorpion. A normal person may die violently with just a little breath. Scorpion looked at Chen, who was facing Sand Tiu alone, with a cruel expression gradually on his face. He seemed to have foreseen the fate of Chen being pierced by Sand Tiu. Chapter 409, Arrogance. Everyone who can become a core member of Xiao's organization is not a good stubble, especially a young and famous guy like Scorpion. Not only did not get lost in the vanity of young fame, but with the honor of young fame and amazing talent going further and further, the difficulties and hardships involved are unimaginable for ordinary people. Generally speaking, it is impossible for a scorpion to be so irrational, but now he is in a state of reincarnation. Not only his body will not be under his own control, but even his mind will be changed due to the control of Do. The endless sand and iron pierced Chen, but it did not cause any damage to Chen, because an invisible shield that was invisible to the eyes was formed around Chen's body. As soon as Sandai Cage's fine sand iron needle touched the invisible shield in front of Chen, it bounced off Chen's invisible shield as if it was blocked by something, and scattered on the ground. How is this possible? Scorpion's eyes widened as he stared at what Chen had done. He couldn't believe his own eyes. He thought about many ways to avoid his sand and iron rain, but he didn't expect that Guo Chen would be able to bounce off his sand and iron rain by standing still. You are looking down on me. Scorpion's face began to distort. How dare you look down on me? People who dared to look down on me since childhood died. Scorpion, who lacked parental love since childhood, was actually a low self-esteem, very vulnerable and sensitive, and very concerned about other people's eyes. This is actually one of the weaknesses of the scorpion. Whenever someone looks at him with contempt, the scorpion will subconsciously rise up in anger, and at the same time, it will start to become unreasonable. Although this will make his power stronger, but as a puppet master, Scorpion never relies on power to eat. His killer is his puppet and the state of immortality after turning himself into a puppet, but he has always no one can force the power of other people's puppets out. Even in front of Chio and Sakura, Scorpion has never used his true strongest power. It's raining when it's really sand and iron. Countless iron sand began to condense in units of 3 generations of Fengiying. Go. Scorpion waved one hand, and iron sand moved towards Chen Yang again. Chenji and Scorpion still did not change his tactics, and continued to shoot with the fine needles condensed by the 3 generations of Fengiying sand iron. He couldn't help but sneer. Why, haven't you given up yet? Is the Scorpion of the red sand that is praised only by this ability? Well, that's too disappointing for me. HMPH. You will see my true power. Scorpion smiled coldly, and squeezed with the 5 fingers that were originally open. Dismiss. Those fine sand and iron needles that were about to reach Chen were instantly decomposed into the most basic units, and a cloud of sand and iron was formed in front of Chen. And the fine iron sand needles that were scattered on the ground also seemed to be assimilated and decomposed into the most basic iron sand units. A cloud of mist formed entirely of sand and iron units surrounded Chen. I'd like to see how you dodge this time. Scorpion used both hands hard, as if pinching something that was difficult to cut off. Sand and iron scattering. The mist of sand and iron wrapped Chen, slowly compressed and slowly condensed, and finally formed a ball composed entirely of sand and iron, like a huge egg. You can go to hell with peace of mind. The scorpion took out one hand to control the 3 generations of wind shadows, and in front of the 3 generations of wind shadows formed a ball of sand and iron dome again, and there was a faint sound between the 2 high-density sand and iron. The position is strongly repulsive. The iron sand liberation. The sand and iron dome in front of Sandai Fengiying, and the sand and iron dome wrapped in Chen quickly collided with Xiaonan's shocked eyes and Scorpion's cruel eyes. As we all know, same sex repel and opposite sex attract. 2 groups of magnets with the same properties will repel each other, and if someone forcibly binds them together, they will just bounce off and repel each other with greater force. And that's how it is now, 2 groups of high-density sand and iron with the same properties merged into one in the eyes of the 2. Boom! The strong impact smashed the 2 balls of sand and iron into pieces. Due to the repulsion of the same sex, the disorganized and disordered repulsion of sand and iron occurred again at the center of the explosion. Only one basic unit of sand and iron was enough to be able to pierce a person's head, which is more than thousands of sand and iron. However, this is not enough, because the scorpion knows that Chen is absolutely impossible to be solved by him so easily. Scorpion formed a seal with both hands, and at the same time, the 3 generations of Cage, who was controlled by him, also began to form a seal with both hands frantically. Sand and iron thorns scattered. The original messy iron sand units once again condensed into needle-shaped sharp objects, and the iron sand attack, which had a slight tendency to stop, once again ushered in a climax. Numerous sand and iron interspersed holes through the center of the explosion, as if to poke Chen into a honeycomb. It's not enough. There was a triumphant smile on the corner of Scorpion's mouth. Although he thought that such an attack could almost seriously injure Chen, this was definitely not the reason for him to stop attacking. Those who dared to insult him would use 100 times more. Even 1,000 times the pain is repaid to the other party. How can such an attack express your enthusiasm for you? Scorpion folded his hands when the sand-iron needle cone had a tendency to stop, and the corresponding 3 generations of Fengiying's hands also folded. The chakra in the scorpion body continuously supplies the 3 generations of Cage to perform ninjutsu. He is now the body of the reincarnation of the dirty earth. Even if the total amount of chakra that can be erupted at one time is not large, but the chakra can't be held back and can always recover, so the scorpion only the output of sand and iron can be maintained in this way. The huge amount of chakra is condensed on the 3 generations of Fengiying. If you don't know that he has been made into a puppet by the scorpion, how does he look like a puppet? Sand-iron funeral. All the sand and iron passing through the flying thorns were all stagnant, as if time had paused for a second at this moment, and after a second, all the sand and iron fell quickly with great force. Boom! This is the sound of iron sand hitting the ground. Countless ground iron slammed on the ground, setting off waves of iron sand. Chen, who was surrounded by iron sand, could no longer see it at this moment. Clear figure, he has been completely covered by sand and iron, buried deep under the ground dozens of meters deep. After a while, the sand iron stopped surging. After doing all this, Scorpion couldn't help but put down his hands, panted slightly, and said with endless sarcasm, "You should die now. Ha 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 ha, let you be as strong as you are, no matter how strong you are. Didn't I kill the genius at the end? Uchiha Chen, your biggest weakness is that you are too conceited." Chapter 410, When the Battle is Underway. It is rude to say that Scorpion is indeed a genius. As long as he is a genius, he should have the arrogance and strength he should have. Indeed, Scorpion's talent in puppet arts has reached a peak, and even the first generation of puppet masters may not have the brains, talent and madness of Scorpion's. However, it was precisely because of this that he was overly superstitious about his own strength, and he was overly superstitious about his own strength until he was about to die. In other words, when he was fighting Chio and Sakura, Scorpio was overly superstitious about himself. The power of Chio underestimated the fighting power that Chio cooperated with Sakura. According to A.B.'s description of the topic of Scorpion and the description of death in the Book of Persons, it is absolutely impossible to let Chio be in the character of Scorpion. Even if he can't bear to start, his actions will not change, because he is the kind of person who is stubborn and refuses to face his true inner thoughts. If he really wanted to be merciful, he wouldn't do it, because such a thought had gone against his understanding of ninjas. The only explanation is that he was too confident in his own strength, and he cracked his ninjutsu again and again in Chio and Sakura, hitting the bottom line of his heart again and again, which made him unacceptable in his heart. After the appearance of Mother, Scorpion has been in a state of nostalgia, and he has no plans to continue fighting. It is precisely because of this that Scorpion has not really been able to exert his full strength to put him under Chio. Kill with Sakura's combination. Fundamentally speaking, the Scorpion is actually a person who takes a lot of face, cares about the eyes of others, and has a very strong self-esteem. After this emotional expression is embodied, it will make him become irrational and manic in the battle, and even if he really catches Chen, he will directly use a combination of punches. Chen, who was suspended right above the Scorpion, folded his arms and looked at the Scorpion with a sympathetic look. He knew that the Scorpion had almost been ruined by him, and it would be meaningless to play anymore. This makes Chen feel very unfortunate. Anyway, Scorpion is still a character that Chen admired before. I didn't expect that Scorpion is such a fragile guy. This is something that Chen never thought of at first. He just wanted to see Scorpion. How is the strength? However, judging from Scorpio's performance, he is not worthy of the evaluation of him in the Book of Mentors, but his overall strength is only ranked third below Itachi and Jiraiya. He is not so much a genius and strong as a child with a paranoid personality and strong strength but no matching temperament like Sasuke. Chen sighed softly, and now he understands the true meaning of the phrase, seeing each other and fighting if you don't see each other. Sometimes if you don't meet him, meeting him may even break the good impression in his heart. Is that all you have? Now that he has seen Scorpion's strength, Chen, who doesn't plan to play anymore, can't help but say, if you only have such strength, then I'm sorry, you should die again. Scorpion was shocked. When? Before, Scorpion had clearly determined that Chen had been wrapped by his sand and iron smashing, otherwise he would not be so confident and bold to use the combination boxing ninjutsu after that. You must know that although his current chakra volume is equal to infinite, he is still easy to defeat with old moves. Scorpion flicked his legs and quickly left his original position. Even though he was in a state of hysteria, his high degree of vigilance still prompted him to subconsciously leave the position he stood before. If he doesn't dodge, maybe he really will die again. Sure enough, less than a second after the Scorpion jumped away, a raging flame ignited where he was standing, and it was the Amaterasu black flame that burned the Scorpion Fei Liuhu before. You bastard! Bastard! Scorpion gritted his teeth and stared at Chen with a strong sense of unyielding. How on earth did you bastard escape my induction? I want to avoid your perception. Chen tilted his head. Is it difficult? What a joke. Chen has now become a 10-tailed human pillar force, and can almost perfectly control all the chakra flow in his body. When facing the Scorpion, it's like a full-level tuba bullying a trumpet who has not graduated from the novice village. Isn't it easy to avoid the Scorpion's perception? For the sake of your appreciation of the character, I'll give you a decent way to die. Chen's body gradually rose into the air, as if his body was starting to be free from the control of gravity, as if in space. Remember, don't be so conceited in your next life. Damn, Scorpion couldn't help but feel a sense of humiliation in his heart. He felt that Chen had never fought him head-on from beginning to end. From the beginning until now, it seemed that he was singing a one-man show by himself. Otherwise, a person who destroyed his puppet with one move and Deidara with one move, how could he still not fight back after taking so many moves from him? Thinking of this, Scorpion couldn't help but let out a long sigh. The strong self-esteem made him lose himself. All this was just an excuse. It's not so much because of his self-esteem that he doesn't want to believe that Chen is a genius, even more genius than him. Perhaps from the very beginning, Scorpion knew that he was not Chen's opponent, but he still chose to attack Chen. Although there was a reason for being controlled by the pocket, it was more of a reluctance to admit defeat in his heart. That's right, Scorpion was struggling to fight on its own from the very beginning. Chen, who was flying higher and higher, glanced down at the corner of Scorpion's mouth, who could only see a trace of black dots, and couldn't help drawing an arc. If that's the case, then I'll use this trick to give you a ride. Fire Escape Dragon Flame Singing Technique. Several fire dragons were spit out from Uchiha Chen's mouth, but they did not only have one dragon head like Madara reincarnated in the dirt, but the whole dragon. However, the target Chen attacked was not the scorpion on the ground, but was released towards the sky above Chen. Several fire dragons entangled and circled and flew into the higher sky, circling and roaring incessantly, as if to render the entire sky into a sea of fire. At this time, Scorpion looked up at the sky, and easily noticed Chen's movements, but what puzzled him was that Chen's ninjutsu did not come towards him but flew towards the sky. He didn't believe that Chen was a miss. Ninjutsu goes wrong. Chapter 411, Immortal Magic Lightning Escape Ink Prison Unicorn. Scorpion, who had never seen such a bizarre scene, couldn't help but feel vigilant. Now that he already knew Chen's strength, he didn't dare to care for him anymore. Scorpion's body was slightly bent forward, and he was ready to deal with Chen ninjutsu at any time. Chenji and Scorpion didn't do anything else, and he didn't take the opportunity to escape, so he couldn't help but smile slightly. That's right. Only such a Scorpion is the character he admired at the beginning, not the guy who lost his mind and attacked randomly. The fire dragons in the sky kept circling and entangled, and suddenly burst open with a bang, and a powerful heat flow spread from the middle to the surroundings. As soon as the heat flow dissipated, it was found that all the clouds within a mile radius began to converge towards the midpoint of the explosion. Countless clouds kept coming together, and gradually the clouds that were white and thin like fog became denser, and even the color began to change to black. At this time, I can vaguely hear the thunder and lightning roaring from the clouds. When the clouds begin to gather to a certain level, the phenomenon of thunder and lightning will occur. This is the thunder of nature, and it is also the thunder of heaven's punishment. No one can escape the punishment from the sky. If only this is the case, then Chen's preparations for so long before will be in vain. I saw Chen's hands move, and his whole body is instantly wrapped in a layer of rich black chakra. This is the essence that has been compressed to the extreme. Mine attribute chakra. Chen pointed his fingers to the sky, and this thunder attribute chakra, which was compressed to the extreme and could explode at any time, seemed to have found a release point for his strength, and swarmed from Chen's fingers to fuse with the lightning that was brewing in the clouds. Chen continued to output chakra, and gradually even the lightning in the clouds has been rendered into extremely dark lightning by Chen. In the sky above Chen, in the cumulonimbus cloud layer, a unicorn giant beast composed of thunder and lightning was entrenched in the center of the cloud layer. It widened its eyes and roared unconsciously, as if it was making the final judgment on the scorpion's crimes. In ancient Chinese myths and legends, the unicorn was originally an auspicious beast with a mild temperament, representing the powerful, wise and prosperous. However, the black unicorn at the moment is nothing like the auspicious beast. Black is an unlucky color, representing death, disease, and decay. At this moment, isn't the black unicorn's eyes revealing cruelty, killing, and conviction? Like a demon from the abyss, staring at the scorpion below like a messenger from hell, it seems that as long as Chen gives an order, he will immediately jump down and destroy the scorpion. Go! With Chen's control of Lei Dun's hand waving down, The black unicorn who was originally entrenched in the clouds suddenly roared excitedly, and with a kick of his hind legs in the clouds, he dashed down as if flying through the clouds. Cold sweat came out from the scorpion's forehead. Don't ask why the corpse reincarnated in the dirt had cold sweat. Even dead bodies have normal fluid flow. He has begun to regret now, why he didn't accept it when he saw it before, and now he has been locked by Chen's ninjutsu. At this time, even if he wants to dodge, he has no chance to dodge. At this moment, he was secretly manipulating Scorpion's pocket with a look of surprise. He didn't expect Chen's strength to be so strong that even if he wanted to release the reincarnation of the dirty earth, it was too late. Because the speed of the black unicorn is simply too fast. Just as he was turning his head around, the black unicorn had come to the front of the scorpion. Fast, too fast. This was Scorpion's first thought. Strong, too strong. This was the second thought of the scorpion. Even when he was only halfway through his reaction, the human was already wiped out. It has to be said that the speed of the unicorn has exceeded the rotation of human consciousness. Boom! After the black unicorn had annihilated the scorpion, it went unabated and went deep into the soil. It took a long time for the roar of ninjutsu to explode. Looking at the past from Chen's point of view, a bottomless black hole has been deeply sunk within a radius of tens of meters. This is only the direct attack range. There is no grass within a radius of 100 meters. These are all black unicorns. The aftermath of the explosion affected it. Chen slowly descended from the sky. Looking at the result of his ninjutsu in front of him, he couldn't help but smashed his mouth. I didn't expect this move to be quite powerful. Chen rubbed his chin and said thoughtfully, except for the consumption of chakra being too large and the preparation time a little longer, everything else is fine. It is used to give people a cold shot. It's just too fitting. After feeling the power of ninjutsu, Chen lightly glanced at Xiaonan, who had rushed over from a distance. Originally, he did not intend to remind Xiaonan that whether this woman died or not had nothing to do with him. After thinking about it, the person was rescued by himself, and he saved the person to the end and sent the Buddha to the west. How far to run? Seeing Xiaonan whose clothes were devastated again, Chen couldn't help shaking his head. It seemed that he still misestimated the killing range of this move. Xiaonan rushed back all the way in shock. Especially after seeing the deep pit created by the black unicorn, she couldn't help but take a deep breath. She has been by Pain's side all the year round, and she can't understand Pain's strength. Even Pain's strongest earth-blasting star can't cause such a great lethal power. Looking at Chen's relaxed expression, it seems that he has done a trivial thing. Xiaonan looked at Chen with flickering eyes, and now she was making a difficult choice in her heart. On the one hand, she was shocked by Yu Chen's strength and wanted to agree to Chen's request for him to avenge her, but on the other hand, it was out of a woman's basic sense of shame. And self-esteem told her that she must not do this. Chen didn't pay attention to Xiaonan, who was now fighting between heaven and man. Before, he was just making a joke and wanted to play Xiaonan. He didn't care if Xiaonan really agreed to his request. In fact, Xiaonan's state is just right now. In line with the evil taste in Chen's heart. Pulling an aloof and glamorous goddess down from the altar was actually what Chen wanted to do the most. Instead of saying hello to Xiaonan, he turned around and walked away with Xiaonan on his back. Chapter 412. I'm joking. Wait. Xiaonan, who was still struggling to decide whether to trade with her body or not, was in a hurry, knowing that all her hope for revenge now lies with Chen. It may have been because of doubts about Chen's strength before. After all, Xiaonan's strength of Chen only came from the conversation between Obito and Nagato. When Xiaonan's hesitation is also very important to her suspicion of Chen's strength. She didn't want the deal to be done by then, but she didn't succeed in revenge, and she had to collect Chen's body. But now Xiaonan completely understands how ignorant and naive she was before. Is it something she can speculate about Tatsu, who became the Ten Tailings? Xiaonan's face was very embarrassed. She tried to stop Chen, but Chen didn't seem to hear her at all, and she ignored her and flew away. With her current state, you want to catch up with Chen. Maybe it wasn't enough to see when she was in her prime. Xiaonan's face was dazed. She had never faced such a choice. Even when she faced Sanjiao Banzo, there was Yahiko by her side who stood up to help her and help them resist the damage. Even in Akatsuki's organization, there was Nagato. Shelter for her. To put it horribly, Xiaonan is like a canary raised by Yahiko and Nagato. Without her own will, everything lives only for these two people. The two people who could protect her are now dead, and now she has nothing, and even the Akatsuki organization they founded is impossible to go back now. There were only two choices in front of her before, either as Nagato did. Say, escape from reality, find a place where no one can find and spend the rest of her life alone, or use her own strength to take revenge on the world, and she finally makes a choice. Nagato and Yahiko are both dead, she no longer has any fetters in the world, she has long been determined to die, but she must take revenge before that, but the result is as it is now, she is not an opponent of Obito at all, now she couldn't do anything at all except linger. It's not so much that Xiaonan is entangled in her body, it is better to say that she is thinking about a new path. Maybe she didn't think so deeply, and Chen didn't think about it. He simply satisfied his own bad taste. However, Chen's bad taste caused Xiaonan a lot of trouble. What the hell am I going to do? Yahiko, Nagato. Xiaonan slumped on the ground helplessly, staring blankly at the sky, as if Yahiko and Nagato were watching her from the sky at the moment. What am I going to do? Xiaonan bent her knees slightly, put her head on her legs, and sighed. Yahiko. Nagato. Xiaonan, who has never lived for herself, is thinking of her two closest partners even at this time. Do you really want to agree to Chen's request? Xiaonan didn't know what she was thinking in her heart, but she knew that if she agreed to Chen's request so easily, she would definitely not be able to accept it, or she still hadn't passed this hurdle. Peace. Dream. I just want my family to be reunited. Xiaonan muttered to himself. Thinking of this, she not only thought of Sanchoyu Banzo, but also of the guy who claimed to be Madara, and of the 3 generations of Earth Shadows. If it weren't for them, if it wasn't for their intentional or unintentional harm, how could it be this level? Xiaonan was ruthless and gritted his teeth. Now Chen is her only hope for revenge. Since Chen is gone, Xiaonan will go to look for it. In such a big ninja world, Chen will be found one day, but if you can't find it, that's all. It's just a matter of revenge. Anyway, I don't plan to live anymore. Xiaonan stood up strong. No amount of scars on her body could stop her heart of revenge now. Uchiha, I must find him. Xiaonan gritted his teeth. Beauty, are you looking for me? Suddenly, a familiar ridicule came from Xiaonan's ear. Although the voice didn't sound very friendly, it surprised her in Xiaonan's ears at this time, and immediately it was a joy in my heart. But Xiaonan is not stupid either. She obviously knew that she couldn't express her emotions. She pretended to be calm and said, Aren't you leaving? A wicked smile appeared on Chen's face. Don't care about these details, it's you who actually misses me, don't you want me to leave? Xiaonan's icy face was covered with frost, and for Chen Xiaonan who put forward such unreasonable conditions, he could not wait to swallow him alive. Where would he miss him? Your previous conditions. I agreed. Although Xiaonan's voice was small, it was very cold, and it could even be said that he was gnashing his teeth. Although Xiaonan is very shameless about Chen's act of taking advantage of the fire, he has to rely on Chen to get his revenge. This has to be said to be a big joke. What did you say? Said he was a little unbelievable and asked again. I said it. Since she had said it once, Xiaonan let go of the shame and anger in her heart and said loudly, I agree to your conditions, as long as you help me avenge me, I can do anything, even if it is you want my body. Chen widened his eyes and looked at Xiaonan in disbelief. Chen couldn't believe that this sentence was said by Xiaonan. You must know that Xiaonan has always been regarded as the kind of relatively noble and glamorous, who doesn't care much about anything. Now when he heard this sentence and saw Xiaonan's expression of shame and indignation, Chen couldn't believe it. Is this the Xiaonan you know? Chen couldn't help shaking his head and said embarrassingly, "I'm joking, brother." Chen was always casual, and what he said to Xiaonan was just a whim to tease her, but he didn't take it seriously, because Chen knew that with Xiaonan's temperament, it was absolutely impossible to agree to this condition. In the end, I didn't expect that Xiaonan actually agreed, it seems. The joke is a little bigger. When Xiaonan heard Chen's words, her body froze immediately, and then a strong sense of humiliation came to her heart, knowing that she had always regarded Chen as her only hope for revenge, but she never thought that Chen was just joking with her. Just kidding her. Chapter 413, Collapse. Xiaonan showed an unbelievable look, as if something happened that she couldn't accept. Xiaonan looked at Chen with an embarrassed expression, and her tone trembled with uncontrollable anger. "You. What did you say? How is it possible? How is it possible?" Xiaonan couldn't accept Chen's statement at all. Even if Chen had explained it, she still couldn't believe it, because Chen was her only hope for revenge. Chen turned his face slightly, but didn't look at Xiaonan, because he didn't know what kind of expression he should use to face Xiaonan now. It seems to be a bit too much. Chen couldn't help thinking. Although this is not what Chen wanted, because he just wanted to tease Xiaonan. This result was unexpected for him. Chen nodded lightly, indicating his position. He doesn't want to go to Xiao organization now, or he needs Xiao organization to lead out the big bosses behind the scenes. Chen knew that with his current strength, Heiju would not dare to trouble him at all, nor would he dare to use the trick of fooling Uchiha Madara to fool himself, and even Heiju would deliberately hide from Chen and not let Chen discover his existence. It is impossible to rely on Chen to elicit their idea. Xiaonan, who was always reluctant to face the reality, closed her eyes. She didn't hear Chen's words for a long time and thought that Chen had already left. She quietly opened her eyes, only to find that Chen nodded with her head sideways, as if she didn't want to face her. Xiaonan felt a pain in her heart, as if something was broken. She knew that it was something called hope. You must know that Xiaonan's enemies are not only the Akatsuki organization, but also the Toying in the Five Shadows. At this time, the other shadows will definitely not sit idly by looking for the trouble of the Toying. It is equivalent to saying that Xiaonan will face the attack of the Xiao organization and the Five Shadows at the same time. At this time, no one other than Chen can help her, not only in terms of strength, but also in terms of power. Only Chen's forces can be compared with the Xiao organization and the Wuren Village Union. If Chen chooses to stand idly by, then no one can help Xiaonan take revenge. It is equivalent to saying that Chen personally gave Xiaonan a hope of revenge, and then killed this hope alive in front of her. Xiaonan's body swayed a bit, but she took a step back and barely stabilized her body. Her already pale face had a few blushes on her face. Unfortunately, that was not a sign that her body had improved, but that she couldn't stand the blow on her face. The redness is about to vomit blood. Chen frowned, and secretly spit in his heart. It's boring. The worst thing he can see is the woman's pitiful appearance. If you can't stand these blows, please don't come out and show your face. Since you have chosen to come out and show your face, then please abide by the rules of the game. The rules will not hold you high just because you are a woman. In Chen's opinion, if he wants to kill, it makes no difference whether the person is a man or a woman. As I said, a joke is a joke. I can't help you if you take it seriously. Besides, I'm really in a hurry right now, and I don't have the spare time to avenge you. Chen looked blankly at him and grabbed the corner of his shirt. Xiaonan, I'll only say it once. Let go. If you are familiar with Chen, you will know that Chen does not like to have too much contact with anyone except close ones. You must know that even Ino has gone through untold hardships to open Chen's heart. Although Chen said that there was no expression on his face at the moment, but his patience has reached the limit now. If he hadn't had time to talk to Xiaonan now, he would have already taken action. No, you must be teasing me, right? Xiaonan pulled the corner of Chen's clothes, her eyes swirling, as if she might shed tears at any time. Go away. Chen waved his hand, and an invisible airflow surged from Chen's body, instantly pushing Xiaonan away. After being pushed away, Xiaonan just woke up like a dream, with shame, loss, disbelief, and anger on his face, flashing back and forth on Xiaonan's face. Suddenly she made a wow, and she didn't catch her breath. Blood spurted out of her mouth, splashing on the charred ground and on Chen's sleeves. Xiaonan lay down on the ground as if all the strength in his body had been exhausted. 2 lines of clear tears flowed from his eyes, and his mouth was slightly half open, as if he was about to say something, but he still didn't know how to speak, so he could only utter some ambiguity. The voice of his words. Chen gently shook his sleeves, looked at Xiaonan. Chen sighed softly. Xiaonan became like this. In fact, a large part of the reason was caused by him. If it wasn't for his bad taste to tease Xiaonan, the matter would definitely be it won't be like this. However, will Chen regret it? No, he always does things like this. Even if he does something wrong, it doesn't matter, as long as he is happy. However, now that I have seen more and more, my strength has become stronger, and naturally my vision has begun to become higher. As the so-called butt determines thinking, the angle you stand at is different, and the things you can see will be different accordingly. Today's Chen is no longer the child who pretended to be stupid and avoided everything, and now Chen is an existence that can call the wind and call the rain in the world of Naruto. It is rude to say that as long as Chen thinks, he can immediately become the next immortal of the 6 paths, and make a name for himself before Madara Uchiha and the others appear. If it was Chen before, then he would definitely do it. But it's different now. Chen knows that doing this will leave a lot of hidden dangers. It's better to remove all the problems at once. Now he also has the strength and the confidence to say such words. Let Obito and Xiao organize small moves. Not Chen is afraid, it just happens that Chen is not afraid. Chen has the confidence, even if Madara and Kagaya reappear, so what? Sample. With their own abilities and the assistance of the system, are they afraid that they will not be able to handle them? To fight against the outside world, you must first settle down. Before Chen decides which world to go to, you must first eliminate all the hidden dangers in the Naruto world. However, the remaining small part of the responsibility is actually still Xiaonan herself. She is too simple, naive because as long as she sacrifices her body, she can let Chen help her take revenge. But I never saw that when Chen said this sentence. What revealed in his eyes was a playful rather than a greedy desire. Chapter 414, Promise. Ha. Xiaonan laughed miserably, and a line of clear tears fell from her eyes. If that's the case, then what's the point of my life? Xiaonan closed his eyes resignedly, took out a kunai from his forbearance bag and stabbed it hard. In his own abdomen. Pff'd. This was the sound of Kunwu piercing into Xiaonan's belly. Just when she wanted to further expand the wound, a big hand crossed over and grabbed Xiaonan's wrist. What are you doing? Chen reached out and grabbed Xiaonan's hand holding Kuwu, looking at her coldly. What is this? If you don't promise, you will die alive. Let go. Xiaonan tried to break free from Chen's control, but after struggling twice, he found that he did not have the power, and wisely gave up this plan. Xiaonan let go of Kuwu's hand, raised his head, stared blankly at Chen. Since there is no way to get revenge, what's the point of my life? Vengeance, revenge, your life is only revenge. Chen reprimanded with a frown. He is very annoyed by Xiaonan's attitude now, and if he keeps his mouth shut, it means revenge and revenge. The whole person has no complete consciousness, and there is no other thought except revenge. That's right, Xiaonan said with a miserable smile. What do you think I have other than revenge? My family is dead, my friends are dead, if I hadn't happened to meet you, or I would have died long ago. Crack. Before Xiaonan's words were finished, Chen slapped her in the face with a slap. Fortunately, Chen didn't use much strength, just wanted to wake her up. But Rao is like this, and a swollen mark still appeared on Xiaonan's face when he was caught off guard. Xiaonan stumbled to the ground, covered the face that Chen had beaten, and looked at him with angry eyes. That kind of look is right. Chen was very satisfied with Xiaonan's eyes. He squatted down, pulled out the kuwu that was still stuck in Xiaonan's abdomen, and condensed the wood-type chakra in his right hand to treat Xiaonan's wound. What kind of dead eyes are you? Do you think you are the most miserable person? You are the most miserable person in the whole world. Chen smiled disdainfully, and after healing Xiaonan's wound, he reached out and squeezed her chin, letting him her eyes were facing herself. Who do you think you are? All the people in the world want to treat you well. Seeing that Xiaonan was still looking at him stubbornly, Chen couldn't help but sigh and let go of her chin. That's it. Chen stood up. Nagato should have explained to you before he died. Xiaonan hesitated for a while and did not speak. If you want me to help you get revenge, say so. If you don't, keep your mouth shut. Nagato told me at the beginning that if he died, he would let me quit the Akatsuki organization, and he even asked me to be careful about that Uchiha Obito. Speaking of Obito, a trace of hatred flashed in Conan's eyes. These Chen are all in his eyes, but Chen doesn't care. If you want to seek revenge from Obito, I advise you to avoid it. You can't do him alone, you should have tried it. Now, maybe that guy Obito has gathered the power of the nine-tailed beast and started to fuse the ten-tailed. It can be said that no one in this world can defeat him except me. Speaking of this, Chen's face showed a proud look. This is a kind of aura that doesn't take anyone in the eye. Of course, no one in this world is qualified to say such words except him. Xiaonan was startled, and then a look of unwillingness appeared on his face. This kind of feeling of knowing who the enemy is, but there is no way to eradicate the opponent is very uncomfortable. She gritted her teeth and looked at Chen with pleading eyes. She had already heard Chen's voiceover. As long as she was honest and obedient, then Chen might avenge her. Chen ignored Xiaonan's pleading eyes and continued to ask, then, let's continue. Xiaonan nodded and continued. Nagato originally told me to leave the Akatsuki organization and find a place to hide until the end of the Shinobi World War, and then I'll be fine. Having said this, Xiaonan couldn't help but stiffen, as if thinking of something like, it's starting to get a little unspeakable. Say it, why don't you say it, go on. Xiaonan gritted his teeth. He said, let me find a place to hide and live well. The last three words Xiaonan seemed to have exhausted all her strength to say, and after she finished speaking, she sat down. He was gasping for breath on the ground, and his eyes started to become wet again involuntarily. Chen looked at Xiaonan, who was slumped on the ground, with mixed feelings in his heart. It was the same with him back then. Without his relatives and friends, he was the only one who existed in his entire life. Those who were related to him all left him, and all began to avoid him. The emotion caused by this touching scene was Rao Shichen, who had already experienced the baptism of the system, and he couldn't help but sigh. Have you ever thought that if Nagato, your friends know that you are like this now? Would they regret it at the beginning? Would they become very disappointed? They had such high expectations for you, but you ended up regretting it. Become self-sacrificing, even willing to sell your own soul for revenge. Are you really worthy of those who put their hopes on you? Are you worthy of Nagato's sacrifice? Xiaonan covered her ears. How could she not know this? It's just that Xiaonan didn't want to face it. Nagato's death hit her too hard, causing her to escape all this in her own life. I will take revenge for you, and I don't want you to pay anything. Chen looked at Xiaonan as if he had seen himself back then. He took a deep breath and avenged Xiaonan without asking Xiaonan to pay anything. Because he seemed to see yourself in Xiaonan back then, the one who cried bitterly in the open space in the clan and wanted revenge but didn't have enough strength. Avenging Xiaonan can also be said to avenge himself back then. Even if it is to make a break with the self of the year, from that moment on, Chen is Chen, the child of the year is the child of the year, and the two of them are like strangers. Thinking of this, Chen's eyes showed a trace of disappointment. Immediately it was a solid color. Chen has never been an indecisive person. Since he has made a decision, he will implement it. Your hatred, I will help you. Xiaonan looked at Chen in surprise and didn't know what to say. He originally thought that Chen's side would not work, but he didn't expect it to end like this. Chapter 415, The Origin of Elements. To say Chen is joking again. This is impossible. Since he has already said this joke once, it is impossible for Chen to make such a joke again. Looking at Xiaonan's eyes that are gradually recovering, Chen did not say anything, as if he said something trivial. But for him it was really just a small thing. Okay, since I have promised to help you get revenge, then you can follow me during this time. Eating it will restore your chakra. Chen reached out and threw 2 pills produced by the system at Xiaonan. For Xiaonan, I don't intend to give her a pulse. Although Chen still has a lot of Garel stones in his hands, but this Garel stone is used a little less. Who knows when it will be used or not. Over. Save a little if you can. Besides, Xiaonan is not someone important to him. Except for Ino, Chen really didn't give it to anyone after that. Xiaonan nodded, obediently swallowing the pill thrown by Chen. The heat flow came from Xiaonan's dantian, and then flowed to Xiaonan's whole body. Driven by this heat flow, Xiaonan's chakra began to recover quickly, and even some obvious meridian injuries were slowly healing. After feeling the changes in Xiaonan's body, Chen put away the eternal kaleidoscope with satisfaction. Well, yes, the system really didn't lie to me. This pill really has the function of treating internal injuries. With her eyes closed, Xiaonan didn't hear what Chen said at all. At this time, she only felt that her body was about to die. Because of chakra's excessive force, the meridians in her body had already been seriously injured. Under the promotion of the pills, the gurgling heat constantly repaired the injuries in her body. The feeling of this meridian repairing was like the feeling of 1,000 ants crawling back and forth on her body. If Xiaonan hadn't been able to clearly feel that her own body was starting to recover gradually, she would even think what the hell was what Chen gave her to eat. After a long time, the injury in Xiaonan's body was finally repaired completely. At this time, Xiaonan was already sweating like rain, and the robe with black background and red cloud was tightly attached to Xiaonan's body because it was soaked in sweat, highlighting that she has a slender body. Xiaonan screamed, "Ah!" and couldn't help covering her vital parts with both hands, looking at Chen shyly. Chen glanced at it disdainfully. To be honest, if he wanted to watch Xiaonan when he was unconscious, he would have already watched it, so why did he have to wait until now? But what makes Chen feel gratified is that now Xiaonan has gradually begun to recover, and no longer has the empty eyes and dead desire as before. It's all a good start. Well, yes, it does. Chen nodded. Sure enough, it's not as big as Ino. With a big wave of his hand, he swung a long robe towards Xiaonan. Put it on, we have to go somewhere after wearing it. Xiaonan took over Chen's robe with a blushing face, and after making sure he didn't peek at it, he changed his clothes after another. Can you use chakra now? Xiaonan nodded. That's okay, follow me down the pit. Xiaonan. Chen stretched out his finger to the deep pit created by his ninjutsu, and said to Xiaonan, "Follow me down, or do you think I came back to tease you?" Chen jumped into the deep pit. Xiaonan gritted his teeth, and when he heard Chen's words, a trace of resentment appeared on his face. At the beginning, she really thought that Chen came back because of her, but she didn't think that it was not the case. What's under this? Can Uchiha Chen value it so much? Xiaonan felt very puzzled. After all, the pit was blasted out by Chen using ninjutsu, but she didn't say anything. Countless pieces of paper condensed behind her to form a pair of huge wings. From the front, it looked like a man falling from the sky. Like an angel. The angel took a deep breath, imitating Chen's appearance, flapping his wings and flying toward the deep pit. System, are you sure there is something under this? Why can't I sense it? Chen frowned and kept calling the system in his heart. Ding, answer the host. According to the system detection, there is indeed the existence of the origin of the elements. It is about 800 meters below the deep pit. Chen smashed his mouth, but did not expect this to be true. Yuan Chen just started a big move just to see that the atmosphere was suitable, but he didn't expect that because the thunder attribute chakra condensed too much, the compression was too extreme, causing the black prison unicorn to go unabated after bombarding the scorpion. He directly smashed the ground into a deep pit, and that's fine. After Chen was about to leave, the system suddenly said that it detected that the power of the black prison Qilin was not fully released, but formed something similar to the source of the elements, which made Chen somewhat curious. What kind of ghost is this elemental source? Is it the product of chakra's compression to the extreme? Ding! That's not the case. Elemental origin is an energy collection that represents the ultimate attribute formed by the natural condensing of elements between heaven and earth over thousands of years. Generally speaking, it is difficult to naturally form a small elemental origin in 1,000 years. It is only possible to form in places where the energy of a single attribute is very strong. When the host releases the skills, the host accidentally condenses the lightning energy to an extreme, and then impacts the unformed element source in the abyss, and the result is formed. A precious elemental source. Oh, what do you mean? There is actually an elemental source in this place. Chen raised his eyebrows unexpectedly, listening to the system's meaning that an elemental source can only be formed in a place with a strong single attribute, but Chen is in after experiencing it for a while. I did not find that there is a strong collection of single attributes here, but the attributes here are very average. Ding! It is because of the average reason that the source of the element has not been formed. The host happened to indirectly promote the birth of the source of the element, and a large amount of extreme thunder attribute watering made it born in advance. Chen rubbed his chin, and said somewhat surprised, "So, it's still my fault for using too much force." Chen spread his hands. He didn't think that the power of the unicorn would be so strong after using the immortal magic bonus. It should be known that the power of Naruto's Spiral Maru Shuriken is similar to that of Urzuzi's Kirin, but Naruto's Spiral Maru Shuriken does not have such power after the addition of Immortal Technique. Chapter 416, Element Origin 2. Chen and Naruto are different. Even if Naruto has the power of 9 tails and even the blessing of the fairy mode, the ultimate essence of the Spiral Pill Shuriken is just a spinning chakra energy ball. Chakra with the wind attribute. However, the unicorn is different. It was originally a collection of natural thunder and lightning, and Chen used the natural attribute of chakra to bless and compress the ink prison unicorn. How could it be comparable to the Spiral Pill Shuriken? After being prompted by the system, Chen nodded thoughtfully. It turns out that there is still such an operation. Then, if I want the source of some element in the future, why don't I just send a few rounds of unicorns? Ding! Host, don't think that the origin of the element is so well formed. You need to know that the formation of the origin of the element this time is just a coincidence. If it wasn't for the prototype of the origin of the element that existed before, how could such a precious thing be born so easily? Elemental origin. By the way, I remind the host that although these elemental sources are very precious, they are also very dangerous. Each elemental source is compressed by the purest elemental power, and its power cannot be underestimated. Even the elements in this small world are very dangerous. The source cannot be careless either. Quote. Chen looked serious and nodded. He was still aware of being cautious. After all, it was something he had never encountered before that even moved the system. You must know that even when Chen obtained a whole vein of Geralt's stone, he never saw the system use such a strong force to call him back. It took more than 10 seconds for Chen to go from the ground to the bottom of the deep pit, which shows the power of Chen's unicorn. Is this what you're looking for? Not long after Xiaonan also fluttered his wings and landed down, looking at the elemental instinct of the purple-black lightning flashing in the center of the deep pit. Xiaonan couldn't help being fascinated by its dazzling light. He couldn't help but said, "It's so beautiful." The element origin of each attribute has a different shape, just like the element origin of the current thunder attribute. The whole body is surrounded by purple-black lightning, and in the center is a budding purple flower. Black roses. Purple represents mystery, and black represents ominousness. The combination of the two colors that originally did not match was unexpectedly very reasonable, and it highlighted the nobility and power of the origin of the elements. As long as it is a woman, there must be a love for beauty in her heart, even if that woman is a cold-faced Shira. Just like Xiaonan now, he is not only surprised by the energy of the source of the elements, but also by the beauty of its own appearance. Xiaonan stared at the source of the element in the center of the deep pit, and for some unknown reason, a thought suddenly appeared. Get it, get it. Get it and you can get revenge. Xiaonan took 2 steps forward like a ghost, and walked towards the source of the elements like a marionette with blank eyes. At this moment, he obviously noticed Xiaonan's change. He shouted and woke Xiaonan from the dazed state. Xiaonan was startled for a moment, then his face flushed and he spat out a mouthful of blood with a, "Wow. Is it better?" Chen asked with a flat face. Xiaonan nodded, wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and looked at Chen with a complicated expression. "You were tempted by this thing just now. If I didn't stop you, maybe you would be more than just spitting blood." A kunai shot out, and before it reached the elemental source, it was annihilated by some kind of distorted force. Fly ash. Xiaonan sucked in a breath of cold air. She naturally believed Chen's words, and Xiaonan had to step back a few steps away from it, which seemed to be such a mysterious and terrifying thing that could even control people's hearts. Immediately, Xiaonan looked at Chen with surprised eyes. She wondered why Chen would not be bewitched by this ghost. Seemingly seeing Xiaonan's doubts, Chen thought about it and explained, "I am different from you. This mere deceitful ability is really nothing to me. You have just recovered from a serious illness, so you should stand back and watch. Look better." Quote. Xiaonan nodded. Now that he understood that the thing was very weird, Xiaonan took a few steps away. She knew it wasn't something she could deal with, and it wasn't something she could have. As the so-called common man is innocent, he is guilty. If ordinary people carry this thing on their body, not to mention whether they will be assimilated into ashes, and they will inevitably be robbed when they go out, or even trigger a bloody slaughter. Thinking of this, Xiaonan has a more intuitive perception of Chen's strength. It turns out that this guy is not only strong in ninjutsu, but also a first-class master in illusion. After all, the power of the temptation emanating from the source of the elements is at least equivalent to an S-level illusion. Even Xiaonan would be attacked if he didn't pay attention, but Chen was not afraid of this large-scale mental fluctuation whose strength was equivalent to S-rank illusion. Except for the shadow-level illusion master Xiaonan, who can ignore S-level illusion attacks, he can't think of anyone else. Chen took a deep breath and looked at the source of the element with a serious face. Although it is said that Shachen's attack caused this elemental source to be born in advance, it does not mean that Chen can bring back the elemental source intact. The thing in front of Chen was produced by suppressing the purest thunder attribute energy to the limit. It can be said that it contains an unknown amount of thunder attribute energy. If one is not careful, it may break the balance of the source of the elements and cause the energy in it to explode. Therefore, even Chen can't take it lightly now, and it takes a considerable amount of effort to recover the source of the elements in front of him. "System, can you recycle this thing?" Chen asked quietly in his heart. Ding, it is determined that the detection is the source of lightning attribute elements. The target can be absorbed and can be converted into a large number of points. However, the system does not recommend the host to do so. The source of the element is very valuable. If the host can use the source of the element to fill in some materials, it is uncertain. Being able to forge a real magic weapon, or directly integrate it into the host space, this is the biggest use of the elemental source. Weapons made from the source of elements can autonomously absorb the single attribute that is free between heaven and earth, making people more effective when practicing. Even at critical moments, the power stored in the weapon can be released, and its power should not be underestimated. Yes, therefore, it is suggested that the host should be able to find all the materials and make the weapon. Chen nodded to show that he understood, but the current situation is not so simple. Rao is now that Chen's strength has soared and he does not dare to directly step into the enchantment of the source of the elements. Chapter 417, Element Origin 3. Chen took a deep breath and closed his eyes randomly. A strong sense of oppression came from Chen's body, which made Xiaonan breathless. Just when she was about to use chakra to resist the oppression from Chen's body, she suddenly felt the whole space throbbing, and then the pressure. The breathless aura disappeared. Just when Xiaonan breathed a sigh of relief, she faintly felt that something was wrong with Chen in front of her, and when she took a closer look, she couldn't help but take a deep breath. I saw that Chen's hair changed from black to white, and 2 wooden horns grew out of his forehead. He was wearing a white robe printed with black hook jade, and behind him, there were 9 pitch-black begging jade floating in the air. When Chen turned his head, Xiaonan suddenly found that Chen's eyes had become the kind of reincarnation eyes that only gods have. This is... Xiaonan's eyes widened, unable to believe that the guy in front of him was actually Uchiha Chen. Seeing Xiaonan's surprised eyes, Chen couldn't help but say with a playful meaning, "Why, does it feel strange?" He knew that Xiaonan must understand what it means that these eyes have this shape. After all, Xiaonan has been with him all the year round. The door is surrounded by her ears and eyes, and she is familiar with these eyes. She can even be conceded that apart from the 6 immortals and Nagato, she is the only one who has the deepest understanding of the eyes of reincarnation. This is the eye of reincarnation, how could you have these eyes? Xiaonan couldn't help asking. After all, she didn't know the origin of the eye of reincarnation, only that it was the eyes possessed by the legendary 6 Paths Immortal. Chen glanced at Xiaonan, and finally put his eyes back on the source of the element, and said indifferently, "I don't have time to explain this to you now." Is it your trump card that you rely on? Xiaonan looked at Chen with a solemn expression. Others don't know the power of Samsara Eye, but Xiaonan still has some understanding of Samsara Eye. After all, she is the most powerful person in Nagato. An important companion, the time spent by Nagato's side is not short. When Xiaonan thought about the matter of revenge, she had more confidence in her heart. Now Uchiha Chen has agreed to her request for revenge. It can be said that as long as Chen's strength is stronger, it means that her hope for revenge is greater. Chen glanced at the source of the element with a solemn expression. Even when he entered the 6th-path state, Chen was still vigilant about whether he could subdue the source of the element, because even now he could clearly sense the dangerous aura coming from the source of the element. "You step back," Chen specifically asked Xiaonan. "Remember not to approach. If you accidentally come in, maybe even I can't save you." As he said that, Chen licked his lips, but he wanted to see how strong this elemental source could actually be to make the system so nervous. You must know that although he is not the strongest thunder ninja, he has barely reached the level of 6 paths. He has already been very handy with the use of chakras with heavier attributes. Even the source of elements relies on the ink prison unicorn released by Chen. Only when it finally took shape, Chen didn't believe that he couldn't figure out the origin of this element with his current state of 6 paths. Chen closed his eyes and opened them suddenly, only to hear the sound of click, and in a blink of an eye, the huge Susanoo wrapped Chen's body. He took a deep breath and stepped into the lightning field of the elemental source. As soon as he stepped into the field of the origin of the elements, Zongchen could clearly sense the danger contained in it. As soon as the endless thunder and lightning entered his body, he could feel the faint numbness eroding through Susanoo's body. Although this feeling was very weak, it added up. Once the side effects of thunder and lightning continued to a certain extent, the explosion will bring Chen an extremely dangerous situation. As expected, it is the origin of the element that even the system has to be cautious about. It's really uncomfortable. Chen twisted his neck stiffly, his body shook, and the numbness that had been eroding him was expelled from his body. However, this is not a long-term solution. As Chen deepens, the numbness gradually becomes stronger and stronger. Ding! I have already warned the host that you need to be cautious. If the source of this element is not so strong, do you think such good things will come your turn? That's true. Chen nodded, expressing his understanding. If it weren't for the fact that the source of the element was too difficult to conquer and the thing was too difficult to form, I believe that the source of the element beneath it would have been poached and raised long ago. Gradually Chen approached the source of the elements step by step, seeing that the rare treasures of heaven and earth in this world were about to fall into Chen's hands. Even if the system did not mention it, Chen began to be a little cautious. You must know that if you are 190, Chen still needs to continue to be vigilant if you want to get this treasure. This last little distance is the most dangerous. Time. At this moment, Chen suddenly stopped. The source of the elements in front of him seemed to have suddenly rioted. Chen's alarm sounded loudly in an instant, and the surrounding thunder and magnetic fields began to change, and even a strong wave started to come from the front of exclusion. There was a strong repulsive force pushing Chen, as if he wanted to push Chen away. Obviously, even the origin of the elements is a thing that bullies the soft and fears the hard. After knowing that Chen is not afraid of the stimulation of thunder and lightning, he began to want to reject Chen. After all, not every divine object wants to have its owner. Generally speaking, those divine objects that have been conceived over thousands of years are doing everything possible to avoid the pursuit of ordinary people, just to be able to continue to survive in this world, and this elemental source is no exception. After feeling that Chen is not easy to deal with, it chooses to reject Chen wisely. The strong thunder and lightning field mixed with repulsion began to tear Chen's body. If Chen's whole body was not surrounded by Susanoo at this moment, the powerful force at this time would probably destroy Chen's body. Humph! Do you want to compare the repulsion? Chen snorted coldly, knowing that he is not afraid of anyone now. Chen's eyes narrowed, and the 6 circles of reincarnation began to gradually exert force, and Xiaonan behind him could only feel the front. The Chen seems to have suddenly become a little more dangerous, but it is a little familiar, just like Nagato from a long, long time ago. The strong sense of sight made her react subconsciously. Shen Luo Tianzheng. A repulsive force that was stronger than when Nagato used it began to spread out from Chen's body. Chapter 418, Element Origin 4. Xiaonan, who had a hunch, was very prescient and prepared to take precautions, because she knew that once the danger came, Uchiha Chen would have no time to pay attention to her life and death. At this time, she could only rely on self-help to save herself out of danger. Sure enough, under the strong impact of Chen and elemental source, even if Xiaonan was already prepared, it was completely useless. Countless thunder and lightning winds continuously impacted Xiaonan. Paper escape and paper bondage. Paper escape. Paper Rashomon. Xiaonan's body was wrapped in layers of paper, and a paper defense wall was erected in front of him, but these were simply not enough to see. The paper Rashomon in front was torn apart by the thunder and lightning just after resisting for a moment. You must know that although this Rashomon is just a technique improved by Xiaonan based on the techniques left by the original Orochimaru as a reference, the defensive power is not inferior to the original Rashomon. What's more, because it is paper, it has better toughness than the original Rashomon, and is more flexible than the original Rashomon. Even so, it was only destroyed in a moment. Xiaonan was shocked. It's not good. Xiaonan had already sensed it at the moment when the paper Rashomon was crushed by the Gangfang, and his Lingyan face was suddenly filled with unease. Anxious, Xiaonan had no choice but to lay down a layer of paper Rashomon once again with both hands. However, it turned out that this was nothing but stubborn resistance. At the moment when Xiaonan's paper Rashomon was laid down, it was once again destroyed by the Gangfang. Xiaonan's horrified eyes looked at the Gangfang. Now there is only a thin layer of paper defense in front of her. It is foreseeable that after the defense of this layer of paper is broken, Xiaonan's figure will be torn apart by the lightning and wind in an instant, and finally Shang Xiaoyu will die. Is it? That's it. Xiaonan sighed in his heart when life and death were at stake, but I still have a big revenge to avenge. Uchiha Obito. 3 generations of soil shadows. Xiaonan's cold eyes suddenly appeared a hint of ferocity, but at this time it was too late to say anything. Xiaonan seems to know her future fate, but what can this be? Nagato. Yahiko. I'm sorry, I may have to come to accompany you. As if he already knew what was going to happen next, Xiaonan closed his eyes as if resigned. Do you want to say he was willing? How could she be reconciled? Her great revenge was not reported. How could she be reconciled without seeing her enemy's death with her own eyes? Do you want to blame Uchiha Chen? Xiaonan didn't blame him, because it was Chen who gave her hope of revenge in despair, so how could Xiaonan blame him? Even if she was teased by Chen and even cried and almost died in despair, so what? Xiaonan didn't care about the process, she only cared about the result, and it was just that Chen didn't save her at that time. In other words, whether this person is Uchiha Chen or someone else, as long as she can help Xiaonan, will she care about unnecessary things? She is naturally quiet and indifferent by nature. No matter who she is to anyone, she will not change it for anyone deliberately. For a long time, the imaginary Gangfeng tear did not come. Xiaonan suddenly opened his eyes and saw a large gray-white hand with scars in front of her. Uchiha Chen. After seeing the big hand, Xiaonan felt fortunate for a while, and then an inexplicable feeling arose in his heart. She knows that the owner of that hand is now the 10-tailed person Zuri, but this does not mean that Chen will not be injured. Uchiha Chen. Xiaonan can imagine how severe the damage Chen, who was at the center of the explosion, was. Rao is like this. Uchiha Chen also set out an arm to help her resist the damage, and only the parties involved are most aware of the danger. Xiaonan's heart warmed. Although Xiaonan has an indifferent attitude towards everything now, at least she still knows the most basic things. Her views on Chen seem to be quietly changing, from indifference to hatred at the beginning. To pray to the present to be able to face it normally. Why do you want to help me? She didn't communicate with Chen at all, and even had a hostile relationship before. Even though the two of them had already made a deal, Xiaonan never thought of asking Chen to protect her. You mind me? Stand back. Chen softly waved his hand and bounced Xiaonan away, although he said that helping Xiaonan to resist the damage would put him at a disadvantage when facing the impact again, but Chen didn't think so. Maybe it's because Chen simply wanted to see Xiaonan showing a humiliated expression after being bullied by himself, but he could only endure it. After all, being able to tease an iceberg goddess like this can be regarded as a rare pleasure for Chen. Chen made a seal with both hands, separated a wooden clone and asked him to take good care of Xiaonan, and then put his eyes on the source of the element again. His eyes squinted slightly. Before, he and elemental source could be said to be both losers and no one benefited. You must know that today's Chen is Susanengu who has used the complete body after turning on the 6-path mode. Things are tied, and it is conceivable how huge the energy contained in the source of the elements is. At present, the source of the elements has passed an explosive period and gradually subsided and began to continue to accumulate energy. It seems that the next round of outbreaks will begin soon. Although Chen said that he suffered some minor injuries in this battle, it was not in the way. Let's not say that this injury did not prevent Chen from continuing to fight. Two Tails Zuri's body was originally able to recover from the injury on its own. There are still so many bottles of pulsation in the bottle, and you can return to the peak state by drinking just one bottle. It can be said that Chen is not afraid of anyone if you want to fight for consumption. The 10-tailed chakra flowed slowly in Chen's body, and the place that had been eroded by the lightning field and had obvious scorch marks gradually began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. The original tattered Susanoo was also in the 10-tailed chakra replenished under the support of. I never imagined that this ghastly thing could force me to such a level. Chen looked at the source of the element playfully. Although he said that Chen was not worried about his life being in danger, the feeling of being suppressed all the time was something that Chen didn't like. It seems that it's not enough if you don't show some real skills. The 6 paths of Samsara Eye. Since the corpse was not prepared in advance, Chen could only temporarily use his wooden avatar as the avatar of the 6 paths of Samsara Eye, while his main body, Kasuzano, was regarded as an outsider outside the 6 paths. Chapter 419, Obtaining the Origin of Elements. The Eye of Reincarnation is divided into 7 techniques. The person who has reincarnation can use all techniques, while the corpse controlled by chakra can only use one technique. However, now Chen has not prepared a corpse, and can only temporarily use the wooden dun avatar to perform. Although it is said that Chen's body can perform all the arts, the reason why Samsara Eye can channel 6 people is naturally unique. Now that the outsider golem has become the body of the 10 tails, the 6 paths of reincarnation have their own advantages. The 6 wooden avatars carrying the ability of Samsara Eyes spread out to surround the source of elements, stretched out 12 hands, and the Samsara Eyes in their eyes began to rotate slowly. The reincarnation eye in the eyes changed from 6 circles to 5, 4, 3. In the end, the reincarnation eye in the eyes of the 6 clones degenerated into a circle of reincarnation. The chests of the Chen and wood clones condense an energy source representing various attributes. From the main body to the clone, they are wind, fire, water, thunder, earth, yin and yang, and the 7 energy sources represent 7 chakras of a single attribute, in the order of mutual generation and mutual restraint. In order. The corners of Chen's clothes were automatic without wind. I don't know when it started, and an atmosphere called depression gradually rose from the deep pit. The elemental source located in the center of the deep pit also seems to feel that something is wrong. This kind of fetish's perception of the spiritual power between heaven and earth is originally higher than that of people, not to mention that now Chen is almost squeezing and looting all the free air within a radius of a kilometer. In chakra. If someone released ninjutsu within a kilometer radius of Chen at this time, they would be surprised to find that his ninjutsu was not only less powerful than usual, but even dissipated twice as fast as usual. Chen is not fully ready, and the source of the elements can't sit still. The manic thunder attribute chakra kept beating, roaring towards Chen and his 6 avatars, and the shrill scream seemed to be venting its dissatisfaction with Chen in its heart. The manic thunder and lightning wind did not hurt Chen, but gathered together into the energy source representing the thunder attribute. Obviously, after absorbing the chakra of the elemental source, the energy source representing the thunder attribute has become more active, and it occupies a dominant position in the 7 chakra energy sources. In the end, the samsara eyes in Chen's eyes were temporarily degraded due to the excessive use of pupil power, and returned to the pair of bright red writing wheels. Have it! Chen pushed with both hands, and the 7 energy balls with a thread went towards the source of the elements. Chen and Mu avatars folded their hands together to seal the word, Tai, 6 paths of reincarnation sealing technique. From the feet of the 7 people to the center of the origin of the elements, complicated spells filled the entire space. The 7 energy balls suddenly turned into a large net that bound together the elemental source within the spell formation. Even if the elemental source collided from the left to the right, there was no way to break through the energy net formed by the combination of the 7 elements. A dazzling light flashed, and the sealing net began to show its power, gradually narrowing its scope, until the elemental source was tightly imprisoned in the battle. After finishing all of this, Chen quietly breathed a sigh of relief. If it wasn't for worrying about the escape of elemental source, Chen really didn't want to use the sealing technique he learned from Samsara's eyes. Not only did it take a long time to prepare, but the amount of chakra and pupil strength required was also too high. Rao Shichen, who is too huge, has become a 10-tailed person, and there is a period of chakra emptiness for a while after he has performed this move. After all, the source of elements is a dead thing, even if it has the nature to seek profit and avoid harm. There is no way to deal with the sealing technique that Chen Chu deliberately arranged. Chen heaved a sigh of relief and exited the 6 paths mode. To be honest, he was still not used to the feeling of transformation. Even if it made him stronger, it always gave him the feeling of turning into a monster. Chen really doesn't want to use this state if it's not necessary. He took out a bottle of pulsing from the system and drank it. The pupil power, which had been exhausted, began to recover. Chen's eyes involuntarily changed from a kaleidoscope to a kaleidoscope, and then to an eternal kaleidoscope, and finally changed from a circle of samsara eyes again. Back to the 6 laps of the writing wheel. Chen took a step forward and picked up the sealed elemental source. Looking at the unicorn-shaped stone the size of a baby's fist, Chen asked with a strange expression, "System, is this the elemental source?" Chen swore that he was casting a unicorn. I have never seen the origin of an element like this before. Ding, that's right. According to the different attributes, the shape of the origin of the elements will also change accordingly. The wind attribute is hurricane, the fire attribute is flame, the water attribute is droplet, the soil attribute is mountain peak, and the thunder attribute should be it is lightning shaped. But since the elemental origin this time is forcibly catalyzed by the ninjutsu performed by the host, the shape of the elemental origin changes according to the ninjutsu performed by the host. Quote. Chen nodded thoughtfully. It turned out that this thing is not a fixed shape. Chen thought that all this thing was like this. Since it was formed based on his ninjutsu, it was a bit like a unicorn. Then how should I use this thing? Ding! The host can choose to turn it over to the system, and the system will give the host corresponding points according to the value of the element's origin, or the host can choose to use it as the main material and add some materials to make new weapons. How many points can I get if I exchange this thing for points? Ding! After the system calculation, the element source contains a large amount of thunder attribute energy source, which can be exchanged for 10 million points in the system. Would you like to exchange it immediately? Chen thought about it carefully, and did not choose to exchange it immediately. After all, points are not very useful to him now, and to be honest, Chen really doesn't like this 10 million. Garrel in his space. The stone ore veins have not been exchanged yet. If you want points, you can exchange them at any time. Chen is a little interested in another option in the system, but he doesn't have any extra materials in his hand right now, and he doesn't even know where those materials come from. Ding! The host can choose to exchange materials in the system store to create weapons. Huh! Chen's eyes lit up. He almost forgot that there was everything in the system. Isn't it easy to find some materials? System, help me find what materials are suitable, give me a list, and I choose to use it to create a new weapon. Seeing Xiaonan coming over, Chen ordered the system and quit the communication with the system, put away the element source, turned his head and said to Xiaonan, "The matter is resolved, we should go." "Are you all right?" Xiaonan took a step forward, his face still horrified, as if he hadn't recovered from the tension of life and death. Chapter 420, Itachi and Naruto. As soon as the words fell, Xiaonan began to regret it. Originally, Xiaonan should not have asked this sentence. After all, although Chen promised to avenge her, it is reasonable that their relationship is not close enough to be a fighting partner, so Xiaonan is in seeing that Chen calmly put the thing away. She was very interested and didn't ask. Chen glanced at Xiaonan in surprise. The same, not only Xiaonan knew the relationship between them, but Chen also knew the relationship between the two of them, but Chen never cared about this issue. And Chen couldn't help showing a half-smile expression on his face. "Why, you are so concerned about me all of a sudden?" Xiaonan's face froze. She knew she had said the wrong thing. She turned her face away and didn't speak. What she said at the moment was useless, because no matter what she said, she would be molested by Chen in the end. Why don't she just out of sight is pure? But this is the case. Xiaonan's icy face showed a trace of embarrassment. Seeing Xiaonan's embarrassed expression, Chen didn't chase after him. He knew that this kind of thing couldn't come in a hurry, and things like molesting a beautiful woman could only be done step by step. "What are your plans next? Follow me or say you have something to do. If you still have something to do, you can leave first. I will naturally notify you when the revenge begins." Xiaonan shook her head. She doesn't have anything urgent to deal with now. It can be said that she doesn't care about anything but revenge now. Except for revenge, everything else has nothing to do with her. Chen nodded. "Then I'll take you to a place first. When you get there, don't panic or worry. I'm going to deal with some things now, and I'll call you out to take revenge together after the matter is dealt with." Saying that, Chen waved his hand and directly put Xiaonan into the system space. Although he said that there was always a beautiful woman beside him, but Chen didn't want Xiaonan to follow him all the time. This is already fatal. After all, Chen and Xiaonan are not the same people. Even if they walk together, they don't look like partners together. Chen, who was acting alone again, twisted his neck and smiled. "I am finally alone again." I don't know if it was an illusion, but when Chen said these words, a trace of sadness flashed in his eyes. "What are you thinking about?" Chen shook his head and was almost amused by himself. When did he become sad? They never been a person who is sad, and Xiao Wenqing suddenly said, "Could it be that I was infected by this woman Xiaonan?" Chen couldn't help thinking. He smiled and put this ridiculous idea behind him. Calculate the time. It seems that the dark chess move I placed should also be taken. Chen roughly estimated the time, and now it seems that it has reached the middle and late stages of the Fourth Ninja World War. as long ago as Chen, many wooden clones have been separated to stay in various places to monitor the movements of the ninja world and guide the whole war. Some things are unnecessary. The wooden clones will directly contact Shuiyu and the others to deal with them, and those Shuiyu and the others will deal with them. If there is something that can't be done, Go Chen can only come forward to deal with it in person. If it wasn't for the long time in seclusion and the Ino affair, Chen should have been recovering Nine Tails Yin chakra on Paradise Island at this time, but things have been delayed again and again, and Chen is now unable to determine whether Naruto is still there. On Paradise Island, we can only see how the information from the wooden clones and the others is coming back. Chen closed his eyes and began to contact the visual information of other wooden avatars in his mind. The reincarnation eye is good for this. No matter where you are, as long as it is one of the 6 avatars, you can share sight, thinking and memory. Chen didn't transform the corpse, so he could make any wooden avatar become one of the 6 avatars to share memory, and he didn't need to wait for the avatar to automatically cancel the ninjutsu and wait for the information to be sent back. After a long time, Chen opened his eyes. Is that so? Now Naruto has left the island. Suddenly, Chen seemed to have thought of something, and his face showed a play-watching expression. Wouldn't there be a good show to watch? Saying that, Chen stepped out. There seemed to be a ripple in the entire void. Chen walked in along the ripple, and disappeared into the deep pit in the blink of an eye. At the same time, Naruto and 8-tailed Kurabi, who were far away on the other side of the continent, were cautiously looking at the 2 black-robed ninjas who were reincarnated from the dirt in front of them. Kurabi took 2 steps closer, pointed to one of the black-robed ninjas and whispered to Naruto, "Hey, Naruto, that guy is your Konoha genius who killed his own family's Uchiha Itachi. Bastard, idiot." Naruto rarely turned serious, looked at the enemy in front of him and nodded to Kurabi. "Ah, that's right. He is Sasuke and Tatsu's brother Uchiha Itachi, but there were other secrets in that year, and so did I only found out after this." Quote. Naruto, who was covered in gold, had obviously mastered the method of controlling the 9 tails. Now that he has successfully activated the first level of the 9 tails mode, his combat power is far from being comparable to that of the past. Itachi glanced at Naruto unexpectedly, but it was no surprise that he knew the truth of what happened back then. After all, when Chen was making trouble with Konoha, he had already made it public in Konoha village, which was equivalent to bringing the high-level Konoha public. The dark side is naked in front of everyone. And Naruto, who yearned for the light in his heart, naturally wouldn't believe Chen's one-sided words, and he dared to say it after the confirmation was confirmed. "Naruto, let me ask you. Do you know where Sasuke still has Chen?" Hearing the names of these 2 people, Naruto could not help biting his teeth subconsciously, clenching his fists. These 2 guys. After saying that, even the 9-tailed state was a little unstable, and Naruto's figure began to change. Blurred, it seems that it may run away at any time. "Calm down, idiot, bastard." Kurabi clapped a hand on Naruto's shoulder. "Have you forgotten what I said then? Idiot, bastard." Surprisingly, under Kurabi's reprimand, Naruto slowly stabilized his mind as if he had come to a realization. He frowned, but still didn't let go of his tightly clenched hand. "I don't know, I haven't heard the news for a long time since I started cultivating, but Sasuke and Chen, I will definitely wait for them in the village. Go." The last sentence was said aloud by Naruto through gritted teeth.